still says going live. Oh, there we go. About to snap. About to snap. Good morning, rise and shine. Oh, smile, it's Friday. It's so amazing. So smile. Smile, mother. Smile. Oh, oh, oh. I used to watch it every day, and I'm done. No, done. I used to watch your streams, and lately you've become more raunchy. I'm done. I'm unsubbing. iCkEdMeL, you've become more arrogant. You used to be a nice guy. Sweet and docile. Catering. All right. Let's see. Let me do a little quick camera check before I turn it on. Good morning. Good morning. Jonesy, thank you for the super chat early. Let me see. Okay. Trying myself together. Shirt's too tight. God, Jesus. Crawling up my arms and stuff. All right. Breathe. It's all good. Everything's fine. Everything is normal. All right, here we go. We're on camera. Boom. There we go. Good morning. Rise and shine. I took Dayquil this morning. Took some Dayquil. I woke up feeling worse today. Like I woke up with like a sore throat. I mean, I feel okay right now. Maybe the meds are kicking. I woke up with like a sore throat kind of thing, and my nose is running and like all kinds of shit. I was like, what's going on? Lame. Good morning. Yo, it's Friday. All right. I'm happy that it's Friday so I can I want to rest, but this is the last weekend that I'm going to be technically living here kind of because, right. Yeah. Next weekend, we'll be in the new place Saturday. So I'm going to try to pack everything up as much as I can. The rest of the stuff this weekend. It's not like I've actually kind of packed ahead of time. I haven't done things like last minute. So, but this weekend I'm going to do one more push to get as many things packed, and then whatever little stuff throughout the week I can do it too. And everything's pretty much finalized pretty much for the new place. All the paperwork, everything's signed. I just have to go pick up the key. So on Wednesday, I'm going to go pick up the key. Wednesday, if we're still streaming, which I think we are at like the trial, I'm just going to get up and leave at a certain point and just go do that, get the keys or whatever, and then come back. By the way, Janie, I saw you earlier comment that, you've watched Low Country and it's better than the Netflix series. I was thinking of watching a Netflix series. I already watched Low Country. The only thing that I'm a little interested in watching is because a friend of mine told me she watched the first episode and she told me like a lot of people didn't like Pawpaw. And I remember Alex's comment yesterday that he had said, thank you guys, I appreciate that, the well wishes. There's so much to that story too that I haven't told as far as moving, but it's a really good thing, especially for Maddie. It's really good. But Alec, he had said nobody can say one bad thing about Paul, and if they did, it's an ulterior motive. Let me pull up these tweets. Good morning, Hoax. What's up? Alana, Fresha, Janie. I heard it was practically almost the same, but the Low Country and the Netflix one. But I am a little intrigued to know about what happened with Paul. Or was it just the same thing? The intro looked a little bit interesting. It looked a little more, I don't know. Julie said, I was watching the DUI guy this morning, and he said he's what? He's tweeting maybe? Tweeting that means he didn't get into, the courtroom. Damn, he was there at 6 a.m. And he said he should have gotten there at 4 a.m. So it's packed because everybody wants to see Alec. Say, watch the good morning, Miss JML, good morning. Laura, Crimes and Consequences. Low Country is on CNN. Oh, I didn't know that. Gigi says, Low Country is on CNN if you don't have HBO Max. Okay, there's another alternative. I know a lot of people don't have the HBO Max. The only reason I have it is because it came with my internet package included. So the Netflix was good. I feel like the Netflix is going to be good, especially if you haven't seen The Low Country. That's also Trish. Thank you for reminding me. Trish H says, and that's why I'm intrigued, because I don't really remember them talking about the abuse in Low Country. Trish here says Paul's girlfriend spoke of physical abuse. Pa, say it ain't so. I'm curious to know about that. What was going on? And again, I know that's not what Alec is on trial for, but you know, people want to know the backstory or the history. Just kind of curious. We got some cough drops too. She was so dumb. It was actually kind of funny. Come listen to Alec Murdaugh explain how he used his badge as a warming agent. If you watched the clip last night, it's what was interesting in that video that I just chopped up some of the clips from the live stream. When you re-listen to stuff, a lot of the times I'm missing things throughout the trial. And so when I re-listen to it, there's other things that I caught that I missed. And so that was one of the parts where he was like, you know, having that badge around, it's just like a warm way or something.
All rise. Court is now in session. Judge Newman presiding.
Warm your way in or whatever. I don't know. The cops. All aboard! Get the other cam set ready.
Please be seated.
Good morning. Let's bring the jury.
I thought usually he says, do you have any questions? I think we got to go over. He just went straight to it. All right, let me get the set up the other camera. But yeah, guys, it's Friday. We made it. Well, it was actually a short week. It was a short week. But nonetheless, we still made it. Josie, thank you for the super chat. Says thank you for your coverage, Mel. Bloop bloop. Thank you, Josie, for the 10. Appreciate that. Bama Skin, thank you for the 5. Says same guy who was interviewing the blonde escort. Oh no, same guy who was interviewing the blonde escort was on Netflix series. Oh, he's the guy from Newsfit, I think. Newsfits. I couldn't help but be heartbroken for Mallory's boyfriend and their relationship. I should check it out then. It's worth checking out the docu. TC says Netflix doc very good. The two sons were privileged little brats. That's kind of the vibes that I got.
Day number 24.
24.
Cross-examination. You may proceed.
May it please the court.
Let's go, Alec. All right, let's see.
Morning, Mr. Murdaugh.
Good morning, Mr. Waters.
All right, let's see if we can move forward with this a little bit. see if we can go back to some things we may be able to agree on.
All right, sir.
All right. First thing is that the money you were stealing, in addition to your income and the money you were borrowing, was not just to pay for drugs. Would you agree with that?
Sure.
All right. And would you agree that your stealing, in addition to the money you were borrowing, increased over the years as we moved towards June of 2021?
Repeat that, please, sir.
Sure. Would you agree that your stealing increased over the years as we move towards June of 2021?
Yes, sir.
All right. And would you admit that your stealing increased in particular after the boat wreck?
No, sir. I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
I think I continued to do it, but I don't. As I sit here today, I don't think I took more money that I should not have taken after the boat wreck than I did before the boat wreck.
Okay.
But again, those documents speak for themselves, Mr. Waters, and if that's the case, then that's the case. But as we sit here, I think that I probably wrongly took from clients and people that trusted me as much money before that boat wreck as after.
All right. And
If
I'm
not
just trying to get through this so we don't get bogged down like we did yesterday. All right.
I understand.
All right. So you wouldn't agree with me that in 2019 alone you stole about $3.7 million?
No, I think that's correct.
All right. And would you agree with me though that figure in 2019 was generally higher than any other year that you've been stealing since 2011?
In any year, sure, I'd agree with that.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about overall, the whole cycle. But
All right.
yeah, I would agree that in 2019, I stole more money than any other year.
Would you agree with me that from 2015 on, your legitimate income, while still very strong, was diminishing as a general matter?
Well, I think whatever my income is speaks for itself, but as a general rule, a plaintiff's lawyer doing what we do, income ebbs and flows. You have some really good years, you have some really lean years. And no, I think I had some good years, maybe not the $4 and $5 million years, but I think I had some $2 and $3 million years in there, and my caseload was such that, I had, one of the things I was working on that Monday was one of the biggest cases that I've ever been involved in.
Talking about the Dominion case, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And so, I think it was cyclical. So I don't, without looking at the record specifically, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Okay, so you don't remember then?
No, I do remember. I don't think I agree with that. But again, those records will speak for themselves.
Okay. All right, so would you agree with me that in 2014, your reported income was over $1 million?
The objection is overruled.
Reported income, like tax-wise, or reported?
Yeah.
I assume you have a document that says that, and if you're reading that from a document, I don't dispute it.
I mean, I'm happy to show it to you if you'd like to see
I
it.
trust you, Mr. Waters, so.
All right, I appreciate that. All right, 2015, would you agree that your reported income was over $2 million?
Again, I don't dispute that.
All right. 2016, reported income $900,000.
Okay,
2017, reported income $218,000.
okay,
2018, reported income of $749,000, roughly.
okay,
And 2019,
Right.
reported income of $655,000.
okay. And see, I mean, to me, that demonstrates exactly what I'm talking about, how it goes up and down.
And would you agree with me that though during those periods of time where you were making that kind of money, you continued to steal? And I think you've already said that your stealing increased as we move through those years, as a general matter.
Absolutely. I don't dispute, and I have never disputed since I was confronted on Labor Day weekend
Right.
that I took money from my clients.
We've gone through that. And I
Well,
think
but you
we
keep
agree with
asking
that.
me
I'm
about
asking
that.
you if your income.
You can finish your answer.
So the point is I have never, since being confronted that day, my brother and my partner came to talk to me, that I have stolen money that did not belong to me, that I misled people to do it, people that I cared about, still care about, a lot of them that I love and still love. And I misled them to do it, and I was wrong. I have never disputed that from day one.
We've been through that. All I'm trying to establish right now with you, Mr. Murdaugh, is as we move towards June of 2021, what your financial condition was like, okay? I agree, you've testified to that multiple times, all right? So, let me ask you this. During this time that your income was what we just went through, and you've conceded that your stealing was increasing, were you also borrowing significant amount of money from Palmetto State Bank?
Yes, I'd always borrowed significant amount of money from Palmetto State Bank, or for the last, more than the last decade. So yes, sir, I agree with that.
As we move to June of 2021, did you have $1 million line of credit with the bank that was pretty much maxed out? Yes or no? As we move to June of 2021.
So in June of 21,
Sure.
yes.
All right. And did you also have a $600,000 line of credit that was pretty much maxed out around that time?
I did.
All right. And did you also, over the years, repeatedly borrow six figures from your law partners?
Well, I borrowed money from a law partner,
Which one?
Johnny Parker.
Johnny Parker. Okay. And that was a fairly common occurrence over the years. It happened multiple times. Would you agree with that?
I agree that it happened multiple times.
All right. And you would agree also that you would sometimes use some of the stolen money to pay that back?
I won't dispute that. I don't know that that's the case. I know what I saw Mr. Bernie testify to in using that particular accounting method. I see that.
All right.
So I don't dispute that.
All right. And would you agree that you also, when you needed money, occasionally borrow as much as 5 and 6 figures from your father, Mr. Randolph?
I did.
All right. And would you also agree that over the years, particularly as we move to June of 2021, you would use stolen money to pay that back?
I don't dispute that.
Okay.
If that's what the records show.
All right. And you just mentioned here in the testimony of Carson Burney and the banker and all that, you would agree with me that as we move to June of 2021, at least in liquid funds, you were running out of money.
In liquid funds, as in money on hand or money that I could get?
Money that you could, liquid funds. You're a lawyer, you know what liquid means. Were you
Well,
running out?
I don't know what you mean by liquid, Mr. Waters, and so
Money you could readily access, assets that you could readily access to pay your ever-increasing debts.
no, sir, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
I do not agree with that,
Okay.
and I'll tell you why.
All right.
So are we talking about June?
I'm talking about as we move to June.
Okay, but what time period are you talking
All
about?
right, let's talk about January to June.
Okay, January to June. January to June, I could borrow money from my father. I could borrow money from Johnny Parker. I could go to the bank and borrow money. I had substantial equity in the Edisto house,
Okay.
as we've talked about.
Which was in Maggie's name, correct?
Well, it was in Maggie and my name.
All right.
So, that definitely was in both of our names. Moselle was in Maggie's name. There's substantial equity in that could have been borrowed against. So under the terms as you defined liquid assets just now, money that I would have access to, I disagree with on that, for those reasons that I just said.
Can we at least agree that generally the way the compensation structure for legitimate money that you earned in your law firm, the vast majority of your compensation does not come except in one lump sum in December? Can we agree to that?
Right, we get a salary. We would receive a salary. I believe our salary was $125,000.
Right.
And then the income that was earned would be paid in the form of a bonus at the year end.
All right. And then would you agree with me that that is why you stole the Ferris fees in March of 2021, because you were in desperate need of funds and you could not wait till December to access those funds?
I think there's probably a lot of reasons why I stole those funds, but I certainly would believe or don't dispute that that's one of the reasons.
And would you agree with me that the $792,000 that you stole of those Ferris funds, that you exhausted those within about 2 months?
I don't know the time period, but I know that I exhausted them.
Now, again, I'm trying to get through this quickly because there's a lot more to talk about, obviously. But we went through a number of questions yesterday about the various clients that you stole from, correct? You remember that? The back and forth we had yesterday, do you remember all that?
Sure I do.
Okay. All right, and so I'm going to try to shortchange this, but I think it's important that we at least say the names of the people that were involved. But let's just do this to see if we can.
To the comment, Your Honor, inappropriate.
I'll rephrase, Your Honor. The clients that we're talking about, these are all real people, yes or no?
They're all real people.
All right.
They're
And
all
these
good
clients-
people.
Okay.
They're all people that I care about, that I cared about then. And a lot of them are people that I love.
Okay.
And I did wrong by them.
Yes, you hurt the people that you love, I know. So,
Shit. Oh.
Sustained.
Yeah, I know.
these were all people, every single one of them, that you at least had a personal conversation with at some point during the course of your representation.
All of my
About the
clients?
representation.
Absolutely. I had multiple conversations with all of my clients.
And these were people, every single one of them, real people that you looked in the eye and convinced them that everything was right.
Your Honor, 403, repetitive, cumulative. We spent 2 hours doing this yesterday.
But simple questions that applies to everybody, and then I'm moving on.
Proceed.
I would have had conversations with all of my clients, and some of the conversations would have been on the telephone. I would have had conversations where I might not be looking them in the eye. I would have had plenty of conversations where I did look them in the eye.
All right, every single one of them looked them in the eye at least once. Is that fair?
Sure.
Every single one of them, you looked them in the eye and developed their trust in you. Is that true?
Every client that I had, at some point, I looked them in the eye, and I believed that I had the trust of my clients. Whether that came from me looking them in the eye or not, I can't answer that, but I will agree with you that every single client, I looked them in the eye, and I believe that the people that I stole money from for all those years trusted me.
And I'm going to show you what's been previously admitted as states 329, I believe it is, and 314. And I'm just going to ask you to peruse those spreadsheets really quickly. And once you have a chance to do that, let me know. I'll have one or two questions about.
Good morning, y'all. Welcome. Hit the like button, please. Subscribe too. I'd appreciate it. Let's get to where are we at? Get to 177
I'm
eventually.
sorry, what was your question?
I just asked you to look at them. Have you had a chance to review those documents?
I have.
All right. And would you agree with me that every single name on here
Melanated.
are either clients that trusted you that you stole from, or instances in which you stole from your law partners who trusted you as well?
I agree with that.
All right, so we don't need to go through each one of these, correct? You agree?
Mr. Waters, like I've told you, I'll go through whatever you want to go through, but each one of those clients is just what we've already talked about. Good people, fine people, upstanding people. They trusted me. Every single one of them I did and I do still care about, and many of them I love and consider them close friends.
Like Barrett Boulware,
Absolutely. It's a perfect example.
and you stole from Barrett Boulware.
I did.
Do you recall a conversation that you had with Ronnie Crosby in which he told you that Barrett was desperate for money because he needed his wife to stay in a hotel near him while he was undergoing treatment for terminal cancer around the time that you stole from him?
Say, Your Honor.
Objections overruled.
I don't recall that conversation, but, you know, I knew Barrett was sick. That, you know, Barrett is a unique situation. I mean, Barrett is and was dear to me as a friend. But, I mean, Barrett and I had a long, long history. You know, I guess really, and I lied probably more by omission, lies by omission in stealing that money. But that's a perfect example. You keep asking about me having these conversations and looking people in the eye. I mean, that's a perfect example. I mean, when I stole that money, he was nowhere around. It was more based on lies by omission. And Barrett and I had such a history. These real estate deals that you're asking me about, Barrett was one of my good friends, and we had been in these real estate deals together. Barrett was just an interesting person. He was a shrimper, was born and raised in Allendale County. And
Bubba.
and he moved down to the coast. And
Mr. Murdaugh.
as shrimping,
Mr. Murdaugh, I don't know that we need Barrett's entire life story.
no, but it's important
Let
to
me just
understand
ask
this
you
based on
this.
the question you asked.
I don't think his entire life story is responsive, Your Honor.
And I'm not intending to give his life story. I'm just telling you a little background.
Go
so
ahead,
you'll
tell us
understand
about
it.
your friend that you stole from. That's fine. Go ahead.
So Barrett started getting into real estate, and he was really good at it. And so I started getting involved with him in that. He could go out and find pieces of property that were really cheap, get them and sell them and make money. Well, we got in some of these deals, and we got in as Barrett and it was some other people. Well, when the recession hit, one of the reasons these land deals caused me trouble is because the people that I was in these deals with no longer could pay. Whereas I might have gone in and I was a 20% person, I'm now all of a sudden, either I have to default at the bank and affect credit, affect ability to borrow, or I have to pay 100%. And so that's what I did. I paid 100%. And so there were years where I was paying, instead of a fifth or a half, I'm paying the whole thing. And it equated to hundreds of thousands, it equated to millions of dollars, which is one of the ways why I ended up with the Moselle property, because I had paid more than $1 million in monies for Barrett, and that was part of the deal in the trade in me purchasing Moselle.
So what you're telling me is you felt like you were entitled to steal from him.
No. You know what? I will tell you this, that, you know, when you're doing the things wrong that I was doing, you have all kind of ways of justifying it. And I'm not saying that makes it right by any means, because it's not. It's wrong. I've said that 100 times. But when I was doing it and I was as addicted as I was and the things I was doing, there's all kind of things that you know, to be able to look yourself in the mirror, you lie to yourself. And I guess self-justification for these bad things, you know, I guess is what I was doing. But, you know, Barrett had owed me so much money that when I took his money, I just didn't tell him. So it was a lie by omission.
All right. All these people on these two exhibits, these were real people that needed this money, is that correct?
I'm sure they did.
But it was more important to you that you stole their money on top of the 40% of legal fees that you were taking.
You actually asked and answered repetitive.
I've never asked that question.
I stole their money.
It was more important to you than their needs, is that correct?
Objection.
Objections overruled.
I don't remember sitting down and calculating, okay, is this more important? You know, one of the self-justifications that I talked about, Mr. Waters, is, and this is one of the things, again, I want to make it clear. I don't, as I sit here today, I do not believe that any of this justifications that I'm talking about made any of this okay, because I don't. I've owned up to all this money I stole. I've tried to since I was confronted, and I continue here today. But one of the justifications at the time when I was taking pills and doing the things I was doing was, I may ask a partner, okay, how much is this case worth? And if one of my partners, and I may not even give them all the real facts, okay? So if they said this case is worth $100,000, okay, and I go out and I get them $300,000, you know, that's one of the stupid little things. Okay, well, this isn't the same. And that's one of those justifications that I used in looking back on this that I don't know how I did. But so to sit down and say, did I evaluate that they needed the money more than I did? You know, I don't think I did that. I think I was selfish, and I think I just took the money.
Okay, I think I understand. I'd asked you a series of questions yesterday about at least relating one conversation you had with one of these clients. And I'm just going to ask you this one. Do you remember looking Tony Satterfield in the eye and lying to him?
I remember lying to Tony Satterfield, and I remember looking him in the eye on many occasions.
And lying to him?
Yeah.
Okay. Lying to his family?
I lied to his family. I don't know if I did it in person, but I know I had phone conversations with him where I lied to him.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the pills, if we can.
Okay?
And you've already testified, as has other people, that you were still able to function as a lawyer over the years despite the pills that you were using. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were able, of course, during this period of time to engage in these relatively complicated thefts that increased over the years that we've just talked about, despite the pill usage. Is that correct?
I was. I was.
All right. And you were also able to, during this time period, convince your staff that nothing was amiss with all of these exhibits, despite your pill usage.
I mean, most of those didn't require convincing my staff, but just so we're on the same page again, I acknowledge that I certainly allowed them to be misled. I certainly allowed them to do things that I shouldn't have done on my behalf, knowing that they trusted me.
How many pills were you using a day?
Depends on a number of items. Most importantly, how strong the pill was.
Okay. Well, let's talk
Get into
about.
it.
Let's say start maybe in January of 2021 and move forward. Can you describe to the jury what your daily pill intake was like?
I think at that time, most of what I was purchasing was 30 milligram pills, instant release, oxycodone, that probably mixed in with some OxyContin, which is made of oxycodone. It's just time release. I would have been taking anywhere from 1,500 milligrams maybe to maybe 1,000 or maybe 1,000 milligrams or 1,200 milligrams on a day I didn't take as much or didn't have as much, up to, I mean, there are days, many days, a lot of days, most days were more than that, and many days would be, you know, more than 2,000 milligrams a day.
And how many pills is that?
It depends on the strength.
Well, let's say it's the
Of the
30s.
pills.
If it's just 30s, it's
just
66 pills, bro.
If I took 30, if I had 30
Can you
milligram
live
pills,
taking that much a day?
you,
2,000 oxy?
you figure 100 pills would be 3,000 milligrams.
100.
100.
So you're taking 60 a day or something like that? I mean,
There were days where I took more than that. There were days I took less than that.
and how would you take them during the course of
That
the day?
shit, I don't know about that, bro.
I mean, how many you
Have to
taking at
ask
one
God.
time? How frequent in this time period?
That
Let's say
shit,
January.
I don't know.
to
You
June.
can live like that. I don't
You
even know
know,
if an addict can take 60
There's a
pills
point in
in
time,
30s.
and I'm not sure when it was.
I don't know about
I
that
think
shit,
it was
man.
well before that, where, and you have to understand
I
this.
never heard of no shit like that.
This is something that I didn't, I mean, I can still remember the first time I ever took an
Mr.
OxyContin.
Murdaugh, can I ask you to answer my question, and I'll
Bro.
let you explain all you want. And my question
I've
was,
known
how many
pill
were you
heads.
taking a
I
day
never heard of no
during this
60-something
time
pills
from
a day.
January to
Bro.
June? Answer that first, please, and if you want to explain, I'm
What?
happy to let you do that.
I'm not positive, and here's why. It's because over the years, like as I was saying, the first OxyContin, one OxyContin literally made me sick. And that was when I was transitioning from hydrocodone to oxycodone.
I gotta hit up a
It made me
friend.
sick because it was a really strong one. And so,
Yeah, ask her.
one OxyContin pill was like 10 hydrocodone pills. So, but anyway, as I took more and more, and over the years, it just, you build up a tolerance to pain pills. And so what might give me this energy, one of the reasons I became so addicted is, some people talk about pain pills and how they make them lethargic and, where they can't do anything and they feel. Opiates gave me energy. I mean, whatever I was doing, it made it more interesting. It made me want to do it longer. To go on a drive, it made driving. It just at the beginning, it made everything better. But I took so much just to keep. It got to a point where I was taking so much just to not backslide or go into withdrawals or have all those symptoms. And so it got to the point where I was taking the amounts that I came to be taking in the time period you're talking about, January to June. So it evolved over time. It wasn't like it just started then, Mr. Waters.
All right, can you just give me one example of a day during that time period?
Sure.
I understand tolerance, guys. Totally, I can get that.
Or whatever time you got
I
up.
still don't
take
understand
one, and then one every
60-something
30
pills
minutes.
of 30
Well, no,
a
I've
day.
given you a chance to explain. So
It would
now
totally
be
depend.
specific.
It would totally depend on any number of circumstances. So starting a day, one of the main things that this would depend on was how late the day before I had taken pills and how many I had taken. And did I take them during the night? Did I wake up during the night and take them? So, you know, let's just say that it had been a while since I took any and I slept and I woke up, all right? Then I would immediately, first thing, take pills, because if it's been a while, a lot of times if you slept and hadn't taken pills, you'd wake up and you could tell the beginnings of those, I'm not gonna say they were really withdrawals, but that agitation that you feel when you don't take it, and you could tell it, so you had to take it right away. And so I would start off, first thing I would do would take pills.
Bruh, there's no way.
That's how strong the withdrawals are for opiates.
I have a
right?
hard time believing
You
that.
feel that agitation until you can take another pill.
Yes, I mean.
And that nobody
but
noticed
I mean,
either,
that's
bro.
just,
You taking
agitation's the tip of the iceberg
Bruh.
when
Let's
it
talk about that
comes
just a
to
little bit.
withdrawals, opiate withdrawals.
I think you said in your, what's been played for the jury and the telephone conversation with Special Agent Kelly that, and you talked about withdrawals, just how strong they are, how you're willing to do anything to make them stop, correct?
I think what I said is almost anything.
Almost anything. Well, describe that, please.
I mean, you're sick. I mean, you're physically, you know, you are physically sick. It's like having the flu when you ache and your joints hurt. You don't want to get up. I mean, you can't get up. And that's after a while. It starts with what you're talking about, agitation and, you know, fidgety. Everybody talks about how fidgety I was. But it starts with that, and then it goes to, you know, you might be sitting here and just all of a sudden sweat's running down your face, all over your body. I mean, like you ran a marathon. I mean, you literally sweat that much. The next thing that comes on after about, 12 hours is, I call it jumpy legs, but I mean, you literally, I mean, there's no way that you could sit right here in this chair. I mean, you couldn't remain sitting. I mean, you would have to get up and move around. And I mean, it's like your legs don't want to work. And that lasts for about anywhere from 18 to 24 hours. During that period, the intestinal issues come in, and I mean, you can't control yourself. You have, diarrhea like you have food poisoning. You throw up. You're physically sick.
How many times did you try to self-detox?
Mr. Waters, dozens, if not hundreds. It's so many I can't tell you.
And those symptoms you just described are extremely powerful and made it very difficult to do that. Is that correct?
Made it difficult to
try to self-detox.
Oh, it's extremely hard.
You mentioned yesterday that you were paranoid. How long had that been going on?
Well, no, I didn't say that I was paranoid. What I said was, as the addiction evolved, there would be situations where you would have these paranoid thoughts.
And when did those first start?
I can't tell you when they first started, but
I mean, how long before June of 2021?
oh, a long
Week,
time.
a month, a long time?
No. It was, as my addiction got worse, I mean, it was a significant period of time. But, you know,
How often
when-
would you have these paranoid thoughts?
usually a matter of seconds. I mean, it was something, again, my whole life, you wouldn't see me where I didn't have pills on me. And that's where I kept them. I kept them on me because I was scared to put them somewhere for fear somebody would find them. So I kept them on me. So if you saw me, I had pills on me. I had a pocket full of pills on June the 8th. On June the 8th, when I was sitting in David Owen's patrol car. So I always had them on me, and I might be going to Edisto, and I turn on Hampton Street right out here, and a police car pulls out. Boom, I have paranoid thoughts. You know, it just, but I could always say, you're not doing anything wrong. He's not following you, and I could get past it in a matter of seconds.
Did anybody in your family ever see you having these severe withdrawals?
Absolutely.
And who did?
Mags, Paw, Bus, my dad, Randy, John Marvin. And just to be clear, Randy and John Marvin never saw me having withdrawals before September. They saw me.
And I thank you for clarifying that. Prior to June of 2021, who in your family saw you having these severe withdrawals?
Bus, Paw, Maggie, my dad.
Do you remember calling Paul a little detective?
I don't know that I ever called him a little detective, but
think he did say that.
Maggie did. I may have. I mean, Paul was very intuitive.
He was
So
referencing Maggie, I think, saying
I
it.
heard
think you said
Miriam.
that during
I
one of
heard
your interviews.
I heard Miriam call him a little detective. I know Maggie used to call him that.
Did that have anything to do with the pills?
Well, yeah, it had something to do with it, but I mean, Paul was always that way, but that what led him to be called a little detective, certainly there were times when Paul found pills.
Including just a month before the murders. Is that correct?
No, sir.
Do you recall 6/5/23 that was entered into evidence, which is a text from Paul to you,
I do.
which he said that Maggie found pills in your bag?
Right.
Tell me about what happened after that.
You asked me about Paul finding them, but it was Maggie that found them.
Fair enough. So it was Maggie that found them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But Paul's the one who reached out to you, correct?
On that occasion, yes, sir.
And what was the discussion after that?
I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was about that I'd had eye surgery I don't know what day it was, but days before that. The day Maggie found them, Maggie drove me to the doctor for me to have my cataract removed, whatever they call that surgery. I can't remember, but I had a cataract taken out, outpatient. You go in for a couple hours and you come out. And it was during COVID, and so Maggie wasn't allowed to come into the doctor's office, and so she sat in the car. And I had left pills in the computer bag and sitting out there bored. Guess she started looking at my computer and found them in the computer bag. So she found those pills.
All right. And so she obviously told Paul, and Paul texted you, correct? About finding those pills
That's correct.
in May of 2021.
That's correct.
And you've heard your sister-in-law Marion testify that Maggie called him the little detective about the pills. You heard that testimony in this courtroom?
I did hear that.
All right. So did they start to watch you like a hawk and get on you about your pill usage during the month of May?
No.
They did not.
No, Mr. Waters, this battle that I had with addiction, it had been going on for years. And so they had been watching me like a hawk for years before May. May was just one occurrence where I let them down again.
All right. They had been watching you like a hawk for years, is that correct?
About my pill addiction, yes, sir. That is correct.
We're gonna talk about the pill thing more on break. I'd love to have like a professional or something talk about it. I did reach out to a friend that used to be, I don't know, I guess addicted to it or something. And she was just like, there's no effing way.
This time in May, that wasn't the only time that Paul.
Anybody that's you just can't compare oxy to like smoking weed, drinking,
Now, there were a number
ecstasy.
of times where
Dude, you literally die. Even with the
Max
tolerance.
found pills, Paul found pills, Bus found pills. I mean, it was an ongoing, it was just an ongoing battle for me.
And after they found those pills in May, that being Maggie and Paul, were they trying to get you to self-detox?
No, sir, not at that point in time.
They just let it go?
No, they didn't let it go. But at that point in time, Paul and I had already had a discussion based on, I can't remember exactly when it was, but there'd been a previous occasion a good while back where there'd been a previous occasion where either Maggie or Paul had found pills, and Paul had come to me and asked me, and I told him, you know, I was back on the pills. And
When was this occasion?
we had had a long talk. As I said, I don't remember exactly when it was before that. Paul and I had had a long talk. And we'd agreed, I had agreed, and I detoxed so many times. I'd been to detox. I detoxed at home with Maggie's help. I've detoxed at home with doctor's help. I've detoxed on my own, tried to, and it just detoxing just didn't work. It just, you could detox, but you couldn't, no, not you, I couldn't stay off of them. And so I promised Paul that as soon as we finished with his criminal case, that I would go to rehab. And and on this particular occasion, Paul knew that his mom worried about me so much with pills that on this particular occasion, I think that Pawpaw convinced Maggie that I got those pills in anticipation of the eye surgery, but that I never took them, so that she would not worry that I was once again.
So you're talking about, now you're claiming that about the time in May, that Paul talked to Maggie and convinced her of that? Or are you talking about a different time?
I'm not claiming that, Mr. Waters. That's a fact. This is what happened.
All right, we're hearing that now, correct?
Hearing what now?
What you just said.
Well, you just asked me this. Mr. Waters, you keep making an issue about first time you hearing these things. When I got arrested and I went to jail, we began reaching out to you to talk to you about all of these things, to try to tell you everything that I'd done, to give you all these details to help y'all go through these financial things. And up until the time that y'all charged me with murdering my wife and child, you would never give Jim Griffin a response to our invitations to sit down and meet with you.
So you're telling me I never responded to Jim Griffin? Is that what you're saying here today?
I'm telling you.
Are you saying that you ever before yesterday reached out to anyone?
This is like personal, too. This is like personal.
Through your attorneys, and reached out to anyone in law enforcement or the prosecution and told them the story about the kennels? Are you telling me that?
What I'm telling you,
answer my
Mr.
question
Waters,
first, please, sir. Answer my question first. Did you ever reach out to anyone in law enforcement or the prosecution and tell that story that you told this jury yesterday about the kennels before yesterday?
Did I ever reach out to law enforcement to say, I want to tell you about the kennels? No, sir, I did not.
That's clear.
The Fifth Amendment line.
Pardon?
This questioning about him volunteering information on these charges violates his Fifth Amendment rights, and we strongly object. Any more, we have to make a motion.
You brought it up.
The objection's overruled.
I think Alex is getting a little bit.
I did was, so
Answer my
Pissed.
question first,
Your Honor,
sir.
for the record, he did not bring it. He was talking about financial
Sit down,
stuff.
Mr. Griffin.
What just happened? Oh, he said sit down. Sit down, Griffin.
Yes or no question.
Ooh.
Before yesterday, did you ever bring up what you told this jury about that kennels to anybody in the prosecution or anybody in law enforcement?
no, I didn't have the opportunity to, Mr. Waters, because you would not respond to my invitations to reach out and tell you about all the things that I'd done wrong. And to talk about bringing this to a head, to talk about bringing this to closure. I understand how many people I hurt. I understand how angry my partners are and how hurt they are. And I understand how hurt these people that I stole money from are. I understand how hurt they are. And one of the things that I believe is getting past this may help them get some closure. And so since at least January, I've been trying to sit down with y'all to talk to y'all.
Okay.
And never, ever got a response to the multiple requests.
Multiple requests?
Yes, sir, multiple requests. I would ask about this
Murdaugh.
every few
ask
weeks.
this, sir.
Sir?
Did Mark Ball ever hear your story to the jury about the kennels until yesterday? Your buddy and law partner, Mark Ball?
No, sir, I haven't spoken to Mark Ball since I went to rehab.
And these were the same law partners that you were listening to the night of. Is that what you testified to this jury earlier? You testified to that earlier, did you not?
I don't understand your question.
Didn't you testify earlier that you were listening to your law partners on the night of the incident?
Was I listening to them?
Yeah, you testified to that. It's a simple question, sir.
I'm sure I was. When are you talking about?
On June 8th in the early morning hours, you testified to this jury that you were listening to them, but you never told them the kennel story either, and they heard it for the first time yesterday as well. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's the first time they heard it.
First time that Ronnie Crosby ever heard that would have been yesterday?
If he was listening, that would have been the first time he heard
First
it.
time Johnny Parker ever heard that was yesterday?
Yes.
First time Danny Henderson, who was representing you in the boat case, ever heard that was yesterday?
Yes, yesterday is the first time that I have said that openly. But that's not what you were asking me, Mr. Waters, but you go ahead,
First time your brother Randy heard that was yesterday.
if he was listening. And Mr. Waters, just to be clear, I was begging for a meeting with y'all to try to bring this to a close, to talk to y'all about everything up until the time that y'all charged me with hurting Maggie and Paul. Now, after that point in time, I stopped, obviously.
You're claiming that you were begging for a meeting, but you admit information was never conveyed that you wanted to change your story after multiple interviews with law enforcement about what happened that night, including the most important fact of all, which is when the last time you supposedly saw your wife and son alive was.
I don't know exactly what was conveyed or not because I wasn't part of it. All I know
Fair
is
enough.
what
You don't
I
know
was
what was
trying to do was to sit down. I understood to bring all this to a close that y'all would want me to sit down and go through all of these financial things, all of these things that I'd done wrong, and to try to bring that to a close. I was repeatedly trying to sit down with y'all.
The reality is, Mr. Murdaugh, is the reason why no one's ever heard that before is because you had to sit in this courtroom and hear your family and your friends, one after the other, come in and testify that you were on that kennel video. So you, like you've done so many times over the course of your life, had to back up and make a new story that kind of fit with the facts that can't be denied. Isn't that true, sir?
No, sir, that's not true.
Okay. You've done that over and over again over the years with all of this that we've been talking about, haven't you?
I've done what over and over again?
The second that you're confronted with facts that you can't deny, you immediately come up with a new lie. Isn't that correct?
Mr. Waters, as we've established, I have lied many times, but I can't sit here and tell you that, what are you talking about, facts that I can't deny? That I would disagree with that proposition that you're putting out, that was what I did all the time. But in doing that, I admit again that I've lied to people that trusted me.
Yeah.
So we can agree that the prosecution and law enforcement and so many of your friends and family heard for the first time your story about the kennels yesterday after all these weeks of testimony. Can we agree on that?
That law enforcement, my partners, and my friends heard me say that for the first time. Yes, I agree with that.
Would you agree with me that your own lawyer was repeating your story that you were at home napping as late as November of 22 on national television?
I don't know.
You don't know that?
No, in jail we don't get newspapers, and the TV we have is limited. So
your own lawyers, at least as late as November 22, didn't know this story that you've told to this jury after 5 weeks of your family and friends coming in and saying, yeah, that's him on that video.
I don't know.
Objection, Your Honor, violates attorney-client privilege communication. Totally improper. Totally improper.
Yes, sir. Response.
He has brought up his communications with counsel, and now that is fair game, Your Honor. His communications through counsel with, or alleged communications with the prosecution.
He didn't.
There's no attorney-client privilege to national television interviews. The objection is overruled.
Ooh, they pissed. Ooh. Good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Interesting day so far. Thank you guys for coming, watching with me. Hit like, please, and subscribe. I'm going to get the super chats, too, when we get a break. This is a big opportunity for the
Are you waiting
prosecution.
for me to answer, Mr. Waters, or did I answer?
I think the point's made.
All right, sir.
You said you were unaware of that national television interview, is that what you said? You were
Unaware of what national television
The
interview?
one where your lawyer repeated that story as late as November of 2022. Your story that you were actually home asleep at the house.
The
during the
only,
8 o'clock hour.
the only national TV ad that I'm aware of is, not ad, program, is one that Mr. Griffin was involved in, was are you referring to like a Dateline something?
I'm talking about HBO.
Okay, HBO.
oh.
All right, like,
Is that Low
so,
Country?
yeah, I am aware of that. And what I believe the case to be is that I believe that when that was in its works, that Mr. Griffin made those statements sometime substantially before November of 22, as early as around the very beginning of 2021.
Well, let's talk.
At least what I understand to be the case.
All right, let's talk some more about your testimony from yesterday. And you're telling this jury, even on something as clear as this kennel video, that your story doesn't change when you have to make them fit the facts that no longer can be denied. Is that what you're telling this jury?
I don't understand that question. Say that again.
I said, you're telling this jury that you don't change your story to make the facts fit evidence you can no longer deny, like what's been going on in this courtroom.
I'm not telling the jury anything about that.
All right, good. All right, let's move on. Let's talk some more about that issue. Let's talk about the confrontation on June the 7th with Jeannie Seckinger, which you said was no big deal. Isn't that what you testified? Words to that effect?
I think what I testified to is that, to me, it certainly didn't seem like a confrontation. Jeannie came to me and was almost apologetic. And this is what I believe, Mr. Waters, is I believe that what Jeannie Seckinger and my partners have had to go through since September has been hard. I know I could see it. I could see the hurt that I caused them. And I know that they're betrayed, and I know that they're angry, and I know that they're hurt. And I want to make clear to this that while I disagree with what Jeannie said as to it being a confrontation, because I don't believe that it was, I don't think that she was lying. I think that she feels it. I think that, she believes that that's the case after all this time that she's had to deal with this. But on June the 7th, when she came to me, she was almost apologetic. You heard her say that she said that she wouldn't be doing her job if she didn't do this. And it was made clear to me that someone had said this, that I had to make sure that income came through the firm, that I couldn't structure money. In other words, I had the impression that there was concern that maybe, like Mark Ball and Ronnie Crosby said, that maybe I was hiding fees because of the civil boat case.
Let me
But
see if I
that
can
conversation was so
summarize.
quick, Mr. Waters, that you keep using the term confrontation. I didn't take it as a confrontation.
And you're telling this jury you're not making that issue fit, make your story fit with those facts by saying, it wasn't a big deal, and Jeannie she's hurt, so she's overreacting now.
No, that's
You
not
got
what
on
I'm
that
saying.
stand and testify.
What I'm saying is exactly what I just testified to, that to me, on that day, that was not a confrontation. It ended almost as quickly as it began, and I didn't think about it again for a period of time until after everything happened.
You testified earlier, you get paranoid if a police officer turns out behind you, but you're not getting paranoid when Jeannie comes in here and says, I need an answer about these fees?
No,
Because I
because,
believe you took them?
no, things like that wouldn't cause, the paranoid thought and the paranoid thinking, it was always related to pills. It was always, okay, that reaction that somebody just gave me.
It was always related to pills.
Do they know something? Did something somebody said? It was, I mean, the times, that's what, when I had to deal with paranoid thinking, that, you know, if a judge confronted me in the courtroom about a piece of evidence, or if Jeannie asked me about that, those are not things that gave me paranoid thinking.
Okay. And you testified the same thing about the boat hearing on June 10th. Not worried about it, no big deal, correct?
No, I didn't say that it was no big deal, but I said that my main concern about those motions coming up on June the 10th dealt more with the venue motion than they did with the motion to compel, I believe is what I
Are
said.
you telling this jury that you didn't testify yesterday, that you weren't concerned about it?
I wasn't overly concerned about it.
Okay.
And I'm sure I had some level of concern because the venue motion was, it was a big issue in the case.
Well, were you concerned enough about it to bow up on Mark Tinsley at the trial lawyers conference and say, what are you doing, Bo?
No, absolutely, unequivocally, never happened.
Okay. If the Ferris fee issue comes to light on June the 7th, you're not going to be able to borrow money from Johnny Parker anymore, are you?
If the Ferris fee, hypothetically speaking, if the Ferris fee came to light on June the 7th, well, here, any point in time, if the Ferris fee came to light, Johnny Parker would not loan me money.
Okay.
If Johnny knew that I had taken fees, I would not have been able to borrow money from Johnny Parker.
You testified earlier about going to the Gamecock baseball game on the weekend prior to Monday, June the 7th, 2021, correct?
Correct.
Hold on for me real quick.
Sir?
Or dipped up.
All right. I'm going to show you what's been marked as stage 572 to this trial. You got your readers with you, or your glasses. And have you, first I just want you to look through that document and then answer the question, do you generally know what that is?
Air, waters, Someone wants something, so if you'll stand for a moment, everybody stand for a moment.
What's that? They're gonna call me Mel Rose. All right, man. Good morning. It's Friday. It's been pretty interesting, spicy. It does seem almost personal on it. Waters, this is his opportunity now, a chance to strike. You know. Let me get some of these super chats so we can try to catch up. Delta Don, thank you for the super chat. Says feel better, Mel. Thanks for the amazing chat. Alex, why did you pew paw paw? Pew pew paw paw. Oh Lord. Jay Gons, how are you feeling, Mel? Happy Friday. I'm okay. I feel a little bit like this morning I woke up and my throat was kind of bothering me. I felt a little somewhat sore. I took some Dayquil and a little bit. I just ordered some soup now so I can just sip on the soup. But I'm good. It's not bad. I just feel like, I guess like a cold or something. I don't know what the hell it is. So like my nose is a little bit stuffed on and off. It clears up, then it gets stuffed. My throat's a little, but no fever or nothing like that. So thank you. Chad Kane, thank you so much for becoming a member. Jackie says, and thank you for the super chat. People admit to a lie to appear honest, while everything else they say is a bold-faced lie, manipulation. Yeah, I've dealt with some people like that. It's kind of tough or hard to tell.
Order.
They'll mix truths and lies, and so it's kind of hard to tell. And, you know, oh, well, they're telling the truth right now, so let's just believe the one time or the couple of times, but overall is a liar, you know? Heaven's Rain, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate that.
Review that, Mr. Murdaugh?
Yes, sir.
Continue.
All right, and do you recognize what those are generally?
I do.
And what are they?
Text between Maggie and I.
And what day did they take place?
June the 6th.
June the 6th, 2021. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
At this time, the state would offer states 572 into evidence. No objection.
To admit without objection.
That too little, Daisy.
All right.
That's a good point.
Tell the jury, where were you when these texts were taking place?
I was in the hotel,
And what city were you in?
Columbia, South Carolina.
All right. And where were they?
I'm not exactly sure where they were when they first started, but they would have been somewhere between a hotel, a restaurant, and the ball field.
All right. But when you send this text on June 6th at 11:41, you say y'all in seat already, correct?
Yes, that's what I did say.
All right. And they say, yeah, Maggie says, yes, we like these seats. Is that correct?
All right, that's correct. I didn't notice that. So at that point in time, they are in the ballpark.
All right. And then you respond, better than last night. They extended checkout to 1. Going to come then. Is that correct?
That's what that text says. Yes, sir.
All right. So you're back at the room. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Later on, you text after she asked you to bring a charger and says, Muggy, you text, I'm dreading it. See you in a little bit. Is that correct?
That's what I said. Yes, sir.
She responds, don't come, but then asks about the charger and says it's hot. Is that correct?
Mr. Waters, yes, I assume you were reading it exactly, so. Yes, sir.
You notice that sniff thing, Swiss? Yo, I cannot. Yo, when the body language
Eventually
experts come out with their
responds.
video, let me know.
Not crowded, but not the place to come if you don't feel well. Very hot and muggy. We are inside, sitting at the bar, very nice indoors. Is that correct?
That's what it says. Yes, sir.
And then you respond, dialed you by accident. They are making me leave, so I'll see y'all in a few. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And who was making you leave where?
It was past checkout time at the hotel.
After you'd gotten an extended checkout, correct?
It appears so.
And the reality is that
Oh, you got the
you were
scissor?
in that hotel
Oh, Kimmy.
suffering from withdrawals when that's going on. Is that correct?
I was beginning to. Yes, sir.
And the reality is that your wife and your son were on you at that time period because they had found pills just a few weeks prior?
No, sir, that's not correct.
Let's talk about June 7th, okay? You got up that morning, or what time do you think you got up and left that day?
After having the benefit of looking at all these records, I don't know what time I got up. And looking at the records, obviously I've been up for a while, but it appears I left shortly after noon.
Okay. And you went to work?
I did, yes, sir.
And what were you working on at work?
I was working on this Dominion Energy case, was primarily what I was working on, that we had motions coming up later in that week. As I said earlier, I believed at the time that it was the biggest case that I'd ever been involved in. And there were motions coming up in that. I was preparing, Danny Henderson, my partner that was helping me with the civil case from the boat wreck, had been on me about getting a financial statement, and I finished doing that so that it could be given to Danny. It's primary, is what I remember doing. Obviously, I talked to Jeannie, but
Okay. And what time did you leave?
and I'm sure I did some other routine office things, but I can't tell you what they are.
All right. What time did you leave?
It appears that I left around a little after 6 from the records.
Okay.
I thought I'd left earlier than that, but I mean, the records seemed to be pretty clear.
All right. And you were, in fact, I think you said in many of your interviews that you were working on the boat case that day as well. Your financial declaration.
Yes, I prepared the financial declaration. I didn't do any work in this civil case. So my work in that is what I did. I prepared the financial statement, which took me a little bit of time to get the details on that. But I mean, that was the work I did in preparation for the motions coming up.
And what time did you get home?
And looking at the records, it looks like I got home a little before 7, 6:45, I think, 6:40 something.
Then you and Paul rode the property?
That's
Did you?
correct.
And you told law enforcement you shot a .22?
That's correct.
You told law enforcement that you never saw any blackout?
That I'd never seen a blackout?
At that point in time when you and Paul were riding the property?
No, I did not see a blackout.
Did you tell law enforcement that you and Paul were going around looking for hogs?
If I said that,
Go ahead.
and if I told them that, you know, you don't look for hogs in the daytime, all right? The hogs are deep in the swamp in the daytime. So I can tell you that Paul and I were not riding around looking for hogs. But what we were doing is we were going from food plot to food plot, and we were looking for hog signs, all right? What a hog will do is come out and root, and they tear up food plots, they tear up everything. And so that was one of the things we were doing. But we were not hog hunting. We were not looking for hogs. We did not have the .300 blackout with us.
Okay. Paul didn't have the gun that blackout that he favored with him while y'all rode the property.
The gun that's in here?
Any rifle?
There was no 300 blackout with me and Paul.
All y'all had was a 22.
And that was a 22 pistol, but we didn't have that with us at that time riding the property.
Right. And you testified, you've seen the Snapchat video of you on the tree, is that right?
I have seen that.
And you don't dispute the time of that video, do you?
I don't even know what time that was taken, but whatever the gentleman
that.
came and testified to, I don't dispute that.
All right. And what time, well, let me ask you this. When did you go back to the house? Were you with Paul or were you by yourself?
I was by myself when I went back to the house. I went back to the house basically when Maggie got there.
When Maggie got there. All right. And where had Paul gone prior to that? Was he back at the house already or he came after you?
Paul was at the shop when I went back to the house.
All right. So you beat him to the house is what you're saying. Is that right?
I beat him to the house?
Yeah. You were at the house prior to him getting there.
Yes.
All right. And you say Maggie was there at the same time or there before you or there after you?
That's what I'm not absolutely certain about. I believe that Maggie came through the kennel entrance, and going back and looking at these records and these times, I believe she came through the kennel entrance while Paul and I were at the shop. But either way, I got to the house very shortly after Maggie got there.
Okay.
And I believe that she came through, and I believe that I went right behind her.
And when did you take the shower that you've been talking about?
Ooh.
I believe when I first went in the house. I mean, I would have talked to Maggie for a second, but I'd seen her that morning, so I would.
You left your clothes on the floor?
I'm not sure. It makes sense to me given what Blanca's said, but I couldn't tell you one way or the other.
All right. About what time was that, you think?
In looking at the records, I think that was a little after 8.
And you're saying Maggie was already there at that point?
When I got to the house,
Yeah.
yeah,
And what did you do after that?
I came back out, sat out on the couch to eat dinner.
All right. About what time was that?
A few minutes later, I mean, it didn't take me long to shower.
And you say Paul was already eating at that point?
He was.
You say he left first.
What I said is he got up and he finished eating, and he left our immediate vicinity. Now, I don't believe he left at that point, given what I've looked at time records and all. I believe that he was around the house for a little bit longer.
And just to be clear, again,
But I didn't see him.
all of this detail was people were hearing for the first time yesterday, like we talked about before, correct?
Say that again?
All of this detail that we're going through right now is not anything that you related before. We're all hearing this for the first time yesterday.
Objection, Your Honor. Fifth Amendment privilege.
Objection is overruled.
So, yes, I did not tell law enforcement. Actually, I don't think law enforcement asked me what I did when we first went to the house, but I clearly lied to law enforcement about what I said yesterday.
Okay. And all of this, the last time you supposedly saw your wife and child, all of this detail, you as a lawyer and a prosecutor didn't think that was important to offer on your own?
Oh, I think it's important.
You told this jury how cooperative you've been and how much information you wanted to provide, but you left out the most important parts, didn't you?
Oh,
I left out that, I sure did.
You don't consider that one of the most important parts?
I think it's important.
All right, tell me about what happens next. Tell me about how Maggie and Paul end up out down at the kennels?
I'm still not absolutely certain exactly how they ended up at the kennel, but in looking at the time frames and looking at the GPS points, I think I pretty well know, because I wasn't sure if Maggie had walked to the kennels or ridden to the kennels, and I wasn't exactly sure how Paw got there, but I'm all but certain that Maggie and Paul went to the kennel together.
All right. And what was the discussion? You said that they were going down there, but you didn't want to go. Is that right?
Maggie, what I said is Maggie asked me to go to the kennels with her, and I wasn't going to go. I said I'm not going to go.
And how long after she left did you supposedly go down there?
It was very quickly.
And what did you tell this jury and all these new facts as to the reason you changed your mind? Why'd you change your mind?
I just had a shower. When you go to the kennel, you always end up at the shop, the dogs are running around, you're always going to end up doing more work. All right? It's hot. I'd already had a shower. I didn't want to go to the kennel.
I understand that. So why'd you change your mind?
Because Maggie wanted me to.
All right. So you thought about it for a few minutes and then decided to go down there?
I don't think I sat and contemplated, am I going to go, am I going to go? I think that, like many things Maggie wanted me to do, if I didn't do it at first, I ended up doing it.
And you took the golf cart down to the kennels?
That's correct.
How long did that take to drive from the house down to the kennels in a golf cart?
You know, in looking at the records from OnStar and all of that, it seems to take about a minute in the
In a golf cart?
Nope, in the Suburban. So I would think it's probably, in looking at those speeds, of what, 20, 24 miles an hour, I would think it takes double that. I think it takes a couple minutes.
All right, so you'll concede at least a couple minutes to drive down there. Is
I
that
think,
right?
yes,
In a golf cart?
that's correct.
When the kennel video was going on, had you arrived before that?
I believe that I had.
Okay. How long do you think you had been there before that was going on?
Not long, because when I got there, in looking at the kennel video, you can see Paw standing in the kennel. When I got there, Paw wasn't standing in the kennel.
He wasn't in the kennel anymore?
Well, he wasn't in the kennel like he is in the video.
Right.
He's probably, and I don't know exactly, but I know he wasn't in the kennel. He was like in the driveway. He was fooling with Cash. He was in the driveway, but like close to the kennel, but not in the kennel like he is in the video.
So the video happened after that, according to you?
Video happened after I got
After
there.
you first saw Paul? You're saying he wasn't in the kennel. When did the video happen?
I believe that to be the case.
Okay. After you had arrived, is that correct?
Yes,
And,
very shortly after I arrived, but after I arrived.
all right. And did you tell Maggie at that time that you were going to go to Alameda?
I did not.
Did y'all discuss it at all, according to you, to these new facts you're testifying to?
I don't believe so.
Did you have any conversation with her?
Oh, yeah.
Had you had a conversation, did you have a conversation with Paul about the dogs, about Cash's tail prior to going down there?
Prior to going down there? Did I have a conversation with Paul about
Yes. Did you
Cash?
talk to him about Cash and some problem with his tail prior to going down there? Did you have any knowledge of that prior to going down there?
I'm not sure. As I sit here today, I don't recall that, but I don't think so.
When you first arrived in the golf cart, where did you pull up to?
I pulled up right where Maggie was.
Which is where?
She was standing in a spot where she could see in between the chicken coop and the storage room of the kennels, where the dogs were back up in those planted pines behind the kennels, to the left of the chicken coop.
And what'd you do after that?
I went back to the house.
No, I mean, did you pulled up, you get out of the golf cart?
When I pulled up, I stayed on the golf cart.
You stayed on the golf cart. How long did you stay on the golf cart?
However long I was down there.
The entire time?
No, I got off to take the chicken from Bubba.
All right, so how long were you down there before you took the chicken off the boat?
Very short time.
Like what?
Couple minutes,
And what were you doing during the couple minutes before you got over there to deal with Bubba?
talking to Mags.
All right. And what did y'all talk about?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
No, sir. I do know that Maggie was very concerned about Paw Paw, and
You remember a lot of detail about all these new facts, but you don't remember what you talked about?
I don't remember the exact details of what we talked about. I believe that at that time, we may have talked about Paw Paw, but I'm not certain.
Were you withdrawing at this time?
At this time, no, sir.
You weren't withdrawing at all.
No. I mean, I would only withdraw when I didn't have pills.
And you're saying you had pills?
Yes.
Down there for a couple minutes, I think you've said now, before you get off the golf cart?
About, yes, sir.
All right. And where do you go at that point?
I take the chicken from Bubba.
All right. So you get up?
Well, I mean, Bubba's come out there with this chicken. I mean, he's showing us, hey, I caught this chicken. And I take the chicken from Bubba.
So Bubba came up to the golf cart?
He came up by the golf cart. He came up to Maggie and I, which I was on the golf cart. She's by the golf cart. I mean, he's not coming to the golf cart, but he's coming to us.
Is this during the kennel video or is this after the kennel video?
Well, no, you hear Maggie say he's got a chicken.
Okay.
That's what she's talking about, is Bubba caught a chicken.
All right. All right. So is the kennel video still going on before you go get the chicken? I mean, you've heard it, correct? You've heard it in this courtroom.
I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly, but in close timing to Bubba coming out of those woods with the chicken, I got up and took the chicken from him.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Were the dogs barking and carrying on or going out into the woods or acting like they sensed somebody was around that they didn't know?
Were the dogs acting like there was somebody around that they didn't know?
Yeah, like dogs do.
No.
No, they weren't.
There was nobody
There was no
around that the dogs didn't know.
Okay. Dogs didn't, to your indication, sense anything out of the ordinary. They were just chasing after the guinea.
There was nobody else around
All right. Good.
for them to sense.
Oh,
You've heard the kennel video. Would you agree with me that it lasts for about 50 seconds?
I agree with that.
So it would have ended around 8:45 and 45 seconds. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with that.
Did you have the chicken out of Bubba's mouth at the end of the kennel video, or did it take longer than that?
You know, I can't remember exactly when in the video he came up with the chicken, but I would have had the chicken out of his mouth within 10, 15 seconds of Maggie saying he's got a chicken.
All right. And so then what did you do?
I put the chicken up.
All right. How long did that take? Did you get out of the golf cart to do that?
I did.
All right. And you had to go walk to where it was?
Well, yeah, I mean, a few feet, but I did that, yes.
All right. So how long did that take? I mean,
Seconds.
we're at 8:46 now. How long did that take?
Seconds.
Just seconds? All right. And what did you do after that?
Got back on the golf cart.
And what did you do after that?
I left.
You left.
Now,
Just
did I
jumped
leave?
on the golf cart and left.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. Did I get on the golf cart and leave that second? Probably not. But did I get on the golf cart and leave very quickly after that? I did.
Okay, yeah, I think you testified yesterday. I got out of there.
I did.
Why'd you get out of there so quick, Mr. Murdaugh?
Oh,
Because it was chaotic, it was hot, and I was getting ready to do exactly what I didn't want to do.
what was that? What you didn't want to do?
You were getting ready to do what you didn't want to do.
Oh,
That's correct.
tell her.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to sweat.
Oh,
was getting ready to work.
Oh, okay. Just gotta clear that up.
Went back to the air conditioner.
What you didn't want to do?
So did you say goodbye, according to your new story?
Did I say goodbye?
New story.
Did you talk to them at all, or did you just get the chicken, put it on there, jump on there, and just take off?
I wouldn't have just gone off. I mean, I would have said, I'm leaving.
Okay.
Did I say goodbye or bye?
And again, go ahead.
I mean, there would have been some, there would have been some exchange. I'm not staying here.
Well, what was that exchange? I mean, you've had such a photographic memory about these new stories. What happened here?
That's not, I can't tell you the exact words.
You don't remember your conversation after you put that chicken up. Did y'all talk about the chicken?
No, I don't think we did.
Did you talk with Paul about Cash's tail?
After the chicken?
Yeah.
No, I know I didn't do that.
Did you tell Maggie I'm going to go check on him?
At that point, no, I don't
Did you
think
tell
I did.
Maggie, it's hot out here, think I'll go back?
I certainly would have said something to that effect.
All right. So, unlike everything else with the new story, you just can't recall what that would have been.
Well, I mean, you're making that categorization. I think there's other things about that I can't remember. But if the question is, can I remember exactly what words I used when I gave Maggie some salutation when I'm leaving, I can't tell you what those were.
All right.
But it would have been something to the effect of, I'm leaving.
All right. Okay. But you would concede that there was at least some conversation, that you wouldn't have just put the chicken on there and ran back to the golf cart and taken off. Correct?
Without talking to Maggie, I would have never done that.
All right. All right. So let's, you want to say a minute? Does that sound about right?
A minute for what?
To have just whatever interaction it took for you to then, according to your new story, drop back to.
No, sir. It wouldn't have taken me a minute. It would
Not a
have
minute.
been, it would have been, I'm leaving. I'll see you in a minute.
Okay. So 30 seconds?
I don't think it would have taken 30 seconds, but, I mean, I'm fine with you using whatever time you want to apply, but I don't
I'm
think it
just
would have
asking
taken that
about
long.
real life here and how people interact with one another, Mr. Murdaugh.
30 seconds, in and out.
So what you're telling this jury, I call you're fuzzy on these kind of details, is that you jetted down there, you dealt with the chicken, and jetted right back.
No, sir. No, sir. I didn't jet down there and I didn't jet back. I got up after Maggie asked me to leave, after Maggie asked me to go with her, and I didn't. I got up, I went and got on a golf cart, I drove down there, I did what I did, I said I'm leaving or something to those words, and I went back.
All right. Well, if it's about 8:46, if the kennel video ends at 8:45 and 45 seconds, and it's about 8:46, we at least concede that maybe it was about a minute before you got on that golf cart and headed back. Just reasonable real life.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it was that long, but maybe, sure.
All right. So,
But I don't think it was that long. I mean,
all right, well, how long
exactly
did you think it
what I
was,
thought
Mr.
was going to be
Murdaugh?
going on at that kennel, why I didn't want to go there to begin with, is exactly what was going on.
Yeah. Well, I get that. Again,
And I left.
are these also convenient facts in your new story that have to fit with the timeline now that that evidence has been thrown in your face?
No, sir.
Does that sound like real life to you, that you jet down there and jet back, Mr. Murdaugh?
Mr. Waters, as I just told you, I didn't get on my golf cart and jet down there. I didn't jet back.
The
Those are
reason
your-
why you have to be
Hang
so
on now,
fuzzy
Mr.
about
Waters.
these
Just a second.
details.
Mr. Waters, hang on.
Just answer before another question is presented.
Yes, sir.
I'm
Just a
answering your
moment.
question.
Just a moment. Are you responding to the last question?
Yes, sir. I'm responding to your question, and you're using words that I'm not using. And that's your
Do you agree
categorization.
I'm entitled to ask my questions to you, sir?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm going to answer them. All I'm saying is, I'm taking issue with the manner in which you're changing what I'm saying.
So you
And
disagree this is a new story? You disagree with that characterization?
yes, this is the first time that this is being told openly.
And you disagree to my characterization that you've got a photographic memory about...
47 before I left out of there.
Okay.
I think it was sooner than that, but it could have been.
All right, that's 60 seconds and 75 seconds, correct?
So he just happened to get
After
there
it ends.
right when it
If
recorded
it ends at
and left.
8:45 and 45
30
seconds.
seconds after?
it's a minute and 15 seconds.
Boom, boom.
Characterized it yesterday as I got out of there, right?
That is exactly what I did.
So if we're at 8:47, I think you said, giving you the benefit of the doubt, it's 2 minutes to get up back to the house, correct?
Approximately.
All right. And when you got back to the
Oh,
house,
no.
where'd you park the golf cart?
Oh no, interlaced.
Same place
Why is
I
it doing
got
that?
it from, right where Mark Ball testified that it was.
All right. And what door did you go in?
Shit. What does that mean? Why is it interlaced? What does that mean? Why is it interlaced? You guys having issues watching me? I just lost everybody. What the heck? Oh, why is that off too? That's so weird. Oh, there we go. Okay.
I would have gone in the front door.
And if you left around 8:47, and it took about 2 minutes to get up to the house, what time would that make it, Mr. Murdaugh?
If I left at 8:47, and if it took me 2 minutes, that would make it 8:49.
8:49.
Thank you guys for waiting. No sound? No sound? You have sound?
Testified you went inside and the TV's on, right?
I did go inside, and the TV was on.
Okay. And you laid down, is that right?
I did.
All right. Before you said you'd been napping for an hour or so, or napping that entire time, but now you laid down on the couch,
That's correct.
all right? And maybe dozed for a second,
Maybe.
according to your new story? How long did you doze?
Sorry, guys.
If I dozed, extremely short time.
Extremely short time? Because you would agree with me that at 9:02, you're up and moving, according to the data.
I agree that according to that data, my phone's recording steps at whatever time it is, 9:02 something.
How long did it take you, if you're at the house at 8:49, how long before you went and laid on the couch?
I would have gone straight to the couch, probably. I may have gone by the sink, or I may have gotten a spit cup, but it would have been basically straight to the couch.
Straight to the couch.
Yes, sir.
And you're telling this jury that that's what happened, and you were back at the house at 8:49, and you lay down on the couch and dozed for a second, and then you were up with more steps in a shorter time period than you had done all day.
Well, I mean, your number is 8:49. What I'm telling this jury is that I went down there, and when I took that chicken from Bubba, I would have said something to Mags. I got back on that golf cart, and I drove back to my house. After getting back to my house, I went inside, and in short order, I went to the couch. That's what I'm telling this jury.
Did you go anywhere else in the house?
Mr. Waters, I can't tell you specifically about that. I don't think so, but I may have.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have that tan blackout and a 12-gauge shotgun on that golf cart when you drove down there?
No.
You didn't?
No.
Did you see them when you were down there?
No.
No. So we got you back around 8:49 and you're leaving at 9:02, correct? And you didn't see any weapons down there. You just happened to be back there. You didn't hear anything at all. Did you hear anything at all, Mr. Murdaugh, during that time period?
No, I did not.
You didn't? Didn't you tell law enforcement that you thought you heard them pull up? Didn't you tell law enforcement that?
I did think they had pulled up.
All right, so that was that. You did think that?
Yes.
All right. So now you're saying there was a car pulling up?
No.
You didn't testify to that yesterday, did you, in your new version of events that
No, I don't.
construct?
Mr. Waters, I don't believe there was a car pulling up.
Okay. But that's what you told law enforcement, didn't you?
No, I told law enforcement that I thought they had pulled up.
All right. But you're saying you couldn't hear blackout shots supposedly, but you could hear that, correct?
I didn't say I couldn't hear blackout shots, but I'm saying that I thought when I got up from taking a nap, if I took a nap, but when I got up from laying down, as I was getting ready to go to my mom's, there was a point in time where I thought Maggie and Paul had come back.
You also told them that you thought you heard a wildcat, but maybe it was a person or something like that as well?
No, that's not what I said.
What did you say then?
I said when I went outside that there's a house cat that's gone wild, and he hangs around. He goes from hanging around the shop, goes from hanging around the house, different times. You might, and there'll be times you don't see him. And he had been around the house. And when I went outside, I believe that cat was over there.
Okay. And you made a point of mentioning that to law enforcement.
I never thought it was a person.
All right. But you made a point of mentioning that to law enforcement, correct?
In the course of discussing it, I did tell them that.
But you never told them all this new story that you've constructed in light of this trial, is that correct?
I did not tell them that I went to the kennel. I lied about that.
And at the same time, you also looked at this jury and tried to tell them that you had been cooperative in this investigation.
Other than lying to them about going to the kennel, I was cooperative in every aspect of this investigation.
Very cooperative, except for maybe the most important fact of all, that you were at the murder scene with the victims just minutes before they died.
Oh.
Right?
I did not tell them that I went to the kennel.
We'll take a break
But
at
just a
this
little bit,
time
yeah.
for about 15 minutes, talking to the jury. Please go to the jury room. Please not discuss the case.
Gonna talk with the. Let's fast forward a little. Catch up. Oh shit! Why do I want to do that?
During that time period.
Then lying.
Room, please. Step down, please. Do not discuss for 15 minutes.
Oh, that's it. Okay. All right, so we're caught up now.
Very first when he got on the stand, Creighton Water
Actually, I was surprised they actually got. So, let me see.
about this. Were you upset about this? This was interesting to me. So he said on June 7th, when Jeannie Seconder was asking you about that missing Ferris fee, were you not upset? And Alex said, no, I wasn't upset. I wouldn't even call that a confrontation. Jeannie may have called it a confrontation, but I did not call it a confrontation. Then he went on to ask about the boat crash and how Alec was feeling about that. And Creighton Water says, so the boat crash, not worried, no big deal. And Alex said, well, no, but I was getting together my financial declaration for the boat crash. Also, something very interesting. We heard Mark Tinsley, who is an attorney who was suing Alec in that boat crash. He was representing the victims. He has testified that at the conference, a lawyer's conference that they were at, Alec went up to him and said, what's going on, Bo? Why are you suing me? Alex said today that never happened. So basically, Creighton Water's trying to say what his motivation was, what Alex's motivation was.
All right. So are we running smooth now? Is the connection running smooth? Because if there's issues, then I'll shut it down and start a new stream. But if it's running okay, then mine is looking like it's okay. I got some weird glitch. It said video interlaced, and then everything just turned green. That rarely happens, but if it's running smooth now, then we'll keep it moving. Sorry, I'm just eating some soup. Nose is all congested. And there was a good tweet as well. I'm gonna get the super chats. Let me just do this tweet. This is from Mandy, and she said, Alec Murdaugh. So Mark Tinsley lied. Mark Doughty lied. Jeannie Seckinger lied. Blanca Simpson lied. Shelley Smith lied. I lied a lot too, but this time you should believe me this time. I think that's kind of interesting too, that people, again, like, you know, they have to prove beyond reasonable doubt this guy shot him, but it's incredible too that people actually take this known liar, habitual, long lifetime liar as, you know what? He's telling the truth. I believe him. Like, okay. Alrighty, you know. All right, let me get some of the super chats. And then even when we have this whole conversation about the oxys and the perks and shit, that supposedly homeboy was spending $50,000 a week, 66 something pills. I mean, it's just my opinion. I could be wrong. If you've never taken oxy, or you don't know how serious that shit is, or you don't know somebody that's had it, to take that amount and be like functional around your family and working. I understand this functional drug addicts, but we're talking 2,000 milligrams of oxycodone, and you just cruising? Sorry. Sorry. I believe him. This message was kind of funny, a friend of mine. See, I don't know if you guys can hear it.
I wouldn't give a fuck. But no, that is fucking impossible. He'd be dead. So he's a lying sack of shit.
That's my, she used to take oxys, the blues. I don't know. Maybe he thought he was taking the 30s and they're giving this dude 5s. And they're on that Alec Murdaugh come up. Yo, we're going to get this money. This little dude don't know what the fuck he's taking. Yeah. You got the 30s, man. You got the high quality 30s. You know, they probably give him a generic. I don't know if there's a generic. Actually, there might not be a generic. I don't know about that, but and he said he was taking Oxycontin too. So some people were asking, well, you know, what's the difference and stuff. I honestly didn't know the difference myself, and so I looked it up, right? And so it says Oxycontin is a branded version of the extended. Sorry, let me do that again. Oxycontin is a brand version of the extended release of oxycodone. So they're like the same drug. One is instant, one is extended. They're different versions of the same drug. Oxycontin and immediate release oxycodone belong to a drug class called opioids. Immediate release oxycodone and oxycontin both bind to receptors in your brain and spinal cord. When they do this, they block pain signals. Okay. All right, let me do this. So let me get the super chats to catch up. Sorry about the issue earlier. If the connection ever drops out like that, I have it set up so like the stream doesn't fully drop. So if you got to go for the minute and go watch somewhere else, you can. But if you love me, I appreciate if you come back. You know, unless something drastic comes and I can't come back, I always get on my phone if I have to and send a chat message to you guys, like whatever's happening if I have to. Heaven Reigns, thank you for the membership. Appreciate that. Chaos, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, move the F on, Waters. This is getting repetitive. And so this was 2 hours ago. Okay. So she was talking about the financial stuff. And I'm glad that he has moved on. And it's interesting. I hadn't paid much attention to this supposed news story. But it's a really tight timeline. Okay. It's a really tight timeline. Tight timeline. From when that video was taken. I guess 844, 845. And I guess, a minute later, 90 seconds later, he dashed back to the house. So when these people were killed, if we go off Dr. Armpit's measurement of time of death, which is just an estimate, 9 p.m., within, I guess, 15 minutes, maybe you could tie it even closer, if depending on I forgot how much. So Armpit said it was 9 p.m. The GPS, cell phone data, whatever, they're estimating, they think, what time, right? I forgot. earlier than that, like a tighter fit. I don't know. I thought it was like 4 minutes or something like that. And that's just guessing off of when the activity stopped, I guess. But when they stopped texting or reading their messages. Bama Skin 25, thank you for the super chat, says we need the characters for Judge Alec for this. Just Jeff, I'm starting to root for Alex. Waters is effing up. Jackie Granite, thank you for the 14-month membership. Thank you so much. Alex wants to stay on the financial topic, not the murder topic, for obvious reasons. Thank you, love you, Mel, for your dedication. And I really think too that like maybe Alex is getting a little bit frustrated now, but I think the long-winded responses is maybe strategic on Alex's part, maybe. Because maybe he's like, well, if you're going to keep digging into this financial shit, I'm going to give you these long-winded responses to make it for the jury to be like, damn, this guy's dragging it out. I'm just answering the question, so I'm going to give this long-winded answer. I mean, unless the jury can see through that, I'm going to give this long-winded answer because you keep giving me the same questions. Or maybe he's buying time. Maybe he's just stretching it out, trying to cut the time from the. I mean, he's an attorney, or he was. He knows what he's doing. But this is what happens too when you take the stand, you know? They're gonna, and especially, this is like a huge opportunity for the prosecution, so they're not just gonna like breeze by it, oh, fuck it, whatever, we're just gonna let this shit slide. They're gonna dig in, you know what I'm saying? Like, and also earlier when I did the video last night, I had mentioned that like, I wonder if this is like the victims maybe feel some sort of like, I don't know, validation or like whatever. And so I saw this tweet last night. I want to try to move quick before they come back. And this is, I guess, I don't know if this is one of the people that he scammed. I would like to look into this. I'm not sure who's the reference here. Mr. Alec Murdaugh, you just highly disrespected my brother who died in the wreck along with my mother. You represented them. You made millions, and you couldn't remember he also died. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm thinking victims. I know the jury is like, they're not supposed to take this, I guess, into account, unless you take into account if they believe that this is the motive financially. But just from the outside, I'm also saying too, like, just years and years and years of being scammed and swindled, and it's always being put under the rug, and this guy has ties to cops and law enforcement, and everybody's afraid of him, always getting away with shit. Maybe for some people, this is like vindication a bit, you know, like, I don't know. Barefoot, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Says there's so much between these two than just DA and defendant. I think so too, Connor, because I just started learning about this case when I started the trial. So there's probably a lot that I still don't know. I'm still trying to gather it on my head. Like, it's all a blur too, somewhat. But these guys with the financial stuff, and even with Cousin Eddie, you see some of the same, I thought, attorneys and the judge. Well, not the Cousin Eddie doesn't have the same attorneys representing him. I feel like I've seen some court videos, previous stuff with these same attorneys and the same judge. I don't know if it's maybe it's the financial stuff. I know it hasn't gone yet, but I've seen them. There's a history between all these people. Dr. Edward Moskowitz, thank you for the super chat, says, Mel, he would be unalived if he did that. 2,000 milligrams a day, 50,000 a week. Oh, maybe he was taking all that shit. I don't know. Tammy's Clips, thank you so much for the super chat. No way his ass would be dead. I've known plenty of pillheads, bro. Lies. There's people watching. I mean, people that you just know, bro. I mean, you just know that's some crazy shit, dude. If you have no idea about that drug, then you wouldn't be able to like understand. Or you could just read about it. Sweet Tea, thank you for becoming a member. Ohio Boy, thanks for the super chat. Says, hey Mel, I've been in recovery for 11 years. There's no way in hell he would take that many in one day and not OD on oxy and other painkillers. Bro, if you're taking that much oxy, you can't even drink. I mean, you already are not supposed to drink. I'm pretty sure codeine, it's already dangerous to drink on oxy or whatever, codeine, whatever, opiates, because your breathing is already going to be slowed, and then I think that just exacerbates it. I mean, bro, 66 pills a day, 2,000 milligrams of codeine. Janie, thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you for the 10. Says, after 3 months, I was about I was up to about 9 a day after 3 back surgeries. Self detox, which be really careful when you do that, for fear that for fear of what I would become. That was 3 months. I could see 20 years turning into a huge amount. Yeah, it's really sad how people, it's prescribed and it's really easy to get hooked on that stuff. I had a friend that had sickle cell, and a little bit before passing, he had told me like he felt addicted to the stuff, but he needed it too at the same time, KJ, thank you for the super chat. Says 60 pills plus 8 food. How did he poop? That's another thing. It causes crazy constipation. I'm supposed to take 5 a day for chronic pain. Messes with you. What's his liver look like? Cirrhosis? How do you get insurance? That's true too. There's so many side effects. I couldn't imagine taking that many. Like the side effects alone that you would have from taking 2,000 oxy a day, 2,000 milligrams. Maybe he's just mistaken. Maybe he doesn't, maybe he's calculating it wrong in his head. Side effects. You wouldn't really even be able to sleep. Lex Lux, thank you for the 4-month membership. Love you all. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. It's Friday, guys. We're here. We're good. Rebel Eric, remember the problems that Johnny Depp had with the pills? It's very hard to overcome. Yeah, I agree. Misbehaving, thank you for the super chat as well. Addiction is no excuse for murder. Kristen, thank you for the 13-month membership. Hey, shout out for everyone trying to recover from addiction. Yeah, it's really tough. Diggs, thank you for the super chat. We do recover. Congrats on sobriety. I'm seeing in chat. Amazing. And Kristen, thank you again for the 13 months. Amazing. Joey Bal, thank you for the super chat. Shannon, thanks for the super chat. Says this man keeps saying he did these people dirty, but not once has he said he was sorry. Not once. Oh. Courtney, the only reason he would want to talk about all his wrongs would be to get a better idea of what they already knew. That's why he always spoke to Sled. That's a good thought. The only reason he would want to talk about all his wrongs would be to get a better idea of what he already knew. That's why they always spoke to Sled. Reagan, thank you so much for the super chat. Says thank you for covering this. Thank you for watching with me. Thank you for the super chats and the support. Reagan says it's personal to a lot of people in that area because people that hate. Let me read that again. It's personal to a lot of people in that area because people hate that good old boys club privilege. I want to check out the. Kind of curious to check out the Netflix documentary. I just saw somebody in the chat. I wanted to read it real quick. Lily White says, I'm sober 3 years in March 1st. Oh, congrats. Amazing. Amazing. Elsa, thanks for the super chat. Elsa, thank you. Says, I'm a nurse. No, you would die before taking 60 pills a day. Your liver will be destroyed. And he will start to look yellow on the face. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I was just a pharmacy tech. I've just worked pharmacy tech, whatever. And I went through my little partying phase. And I just knew friends that like were really bad. Like I was just like taking X, partying, clubbing. I was a little experimental, but like nothing crazy, like, well, it depends. Some people might consider that crazy. I'm like, yeah, but I knew people that were like seriously, like they actually had addiction problems and stuff like that, and they would take this stuff, they'd call it blues or whatever. Nobody like was popping those 60 pills, bro. Like, dude, that's just unrealistic. Rachel, thank you so much for the 2-month membership. Is this my prize? Dr. Edward Moskowitz, Mel, anything over 288 milligrams of oxy for hospice equals decreased respiratory and death. Alec, and that's the thing too. They would literally have to monitor your breathing. Like, what? Decreased respiratory and death. Alec, no hospice. 1,000 milligrams or above equals death. I sent 3 articles from Mayo Clinic to Harvard. Did anyone carry bar in family? I wonder if that cut off. Did I get the whole chat? Did anyone? Or maybe that's just the limit. Did anyone carry bar in family? I don't know. Bella, thanks for the super chat. Elsa, thanks for the super chat. It's working now. Amazing. KJ, for those with green screen, leave and come back. I think we're kind of back to where we were, which is nice. Diggs, baby, come back. Thank you for the super chat. Whitney, thanks for the 20. Says his timeline does not add up, period. And why lie about the timeline? Also, I'm saying there's something, anybody that has any kind of like logical, I don't know, thing is going to be like, something's up with this guy. I definitely understand the reasonable doubt thing for sure, that he's the one that literally shot the gun. Like they're missing they're missing a few pieces. Gamora's mom, no worries, love. We expect a few technical things. Yeah, it actually hasn't been bad. Thank you for the super chat. It actually has not, compared to, and I don't want to jinx it, but compared to Johnny Depp, it really hasn't been bad. Like as far as technical difficulties, towards the end of Johnny Depp, we had a whole bunch, and literally the power is being cut out every other day for some reason. I think a transformer, I don't know, blew one of the times too. I don't have power. SW4x4, what do you hear when AM opened his mouth? Lies, lies, and more lies.
After the recess, Creighton Waters will be stepping back up, I assume, to do the questioning. He's got all.
Did he know how to tell the truth? Nope.
Alan Wilson
you,
right
SW.
next to
I
him.
remind everyone in the courtroom
We're going to listen in to what he has to say.
that there is to be no reaction to the testimony. No jeers, cheers, no reaction at all by anyone in the courtroom. If you bring the jury,
On the record before the jury comes in.
there will be an opportunity to put something on the record. If it's regarding an objection, it can be done later.
Yes, sir.
Judge is not playing. Joanne Nelson, thank you for the super chat. Does he ever tell the truth? Truth will set you free. I don't know. Julie, thank you so much for the stars on Facebook. 1,000 stars. Amazing. Thank you for watching. Tammy, thanks for the super chat. 20. He's a liar. He's a drug addict. We've heard testimony after testimony how much he loves his family, and they all got along. The state has been more concerned about money. I honestly believe, in my opinion, not guilty for murder. Okay, there you go. There you go. Thank you. Sinner, thank you for the super chat. Says, I wouldn't trust this goon to cut my lawn. Lisa Lily Blue, thank you for the super chat. I've been leaning toward too much responsible. Sorry, do it again. I've been leaning toward too much reasonable doubt until today. Now, at the end of the day, his actions caused their death. His shot or not guilty. Damn. I've been leaning toward too much reasonable doubt until today. Now, at the end of the day, his actions caused their death. His shot or not guilty.
Thank you. You may proceed.
I get the rest after. I don't know.
When you picked up that chicken, was there any blood on it?
I don't believe so.
Did you wash your hands or all?
At that point in time, I don't believe that I did.
And when you say you were there, you said Maggie was nearby you. Is that correct?
Right by me.
Was she messing with the hose at all?
At that time, no, she was not.
Did she mess with it the entire time that you were there, according to your new facts today?
While I was there, she did not touch. She was not fooling with a hose at all.
I'm gonna move this thing along. I'm gonna put up on the screen, states 519, which is the condensed timeline. If I could have the computer input, please. It's the condensed timeline, Mr. Griffin. Coming out all right. You see that up there, Mr. Murdaugh?
Yes.
All right, I'm on page 5. You see that cell tower map there?
That's up on my screen.
Yeah.
I do see that.
Would you agree with me that it reflects no cell tower activity on your phone from 6:52 to 9:04?
I do agree with that.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Murdaugh. Did you take your phone with you down to the kennels, according to the new facts that you're testified to yesterday and today?
I must not have.
You must not have.
If this is accurate, no, sir.
Is that typical for you?
Sure it is.
It's
Absolutely.
typical. Okay. Tell me why that's typical.
If and when I'm going, now, it would be unusual if I was going out for any extended period of time, or if I was going, even on the property, if I was going somewhere for an extended period of time, I would usually have my phone. But for me to go knowing that I'm going to the kennel and coming right back, that's not unusual at all. I mean, you've heard the testimony about the service out there. The service is terrible. You have to be in a particular spot.
All right.
And you have to find a spot.
So the answer is you don't know whether or not you took it down there
And I believe that I probably didn't based on this data.
based on this, but unlike your photographic memory about other things, you don't remember whether or not you had your phone on you.
Mr. Waters, I've never claimed to have a photographic memory, but I do not specifically remember if I had my phone that night. I do not dispute it based on this data, and that's not unusual for me.
Just like you don't remember, according to your new story, the last conversation you had with Maggie.
No, I remember having my last conversation with Maggie.
What was it?
Looking at this screen, you have the map up there. We're on page 6, and it shows you arriving back at Moselle at 6:42. You don't dispute that now, is that correct?
No, that's what this data appears to show.
And looking at the data, moving on to page 7, you have Paul arriving about 7:04. Is that correct? You don't have any reason to dispute that?
Well, that's what it says. He arrives at 4147 Moselle Road, which is the address of the shop. The house is 4157. I believe that Paul actually got there a little bit before that, but I think that's approximately accurate.
Okay.
I think Paul got there a little bit closer to 7 o'clock.
You would agree, though, that's the earliest data point that reflects his presence in Moselle?
If that's what the records show.
You don't dispute that?
I don't dispute that if that's the earliest data point. But again, I believe he got there a little bit earlier. And
So you
I
remember what
tried to
time he
look
got
at these records to see if if that could be refuted. And I believe he got there a little closer to 7 or a little bit before 7.
Yeah, that's a good point. You looked at these records a lot before you had your testimony yesterday and today, didn't you, Mr. Murdaugh?
I've looked at these records other than the OnStar records that just came when they were provided to me. Sure, I've looked at them.
Right here, we have some steps on your phone, 29 steps. And then down at the bottom, we have 89 steps. Is that consistent when you and Paul were together on the property?
I mean, sure, we would go to different locations on the property. Sometimes we would get out, sometimes we wouldn't. We'd get out and walk around, we'd look at stuff, we'd do things. For example, you saw me messing with the tree. There'd be other ones, we may get out and look at a feeder. Maybe other ones, we get out and look at hog signs where hogs are rooting. So it would be perfectly consistent with what Pawpaw and I were doing that day.
And 8:05 to 8:09, would you agree that that's the last steps recorded on your phone before 9:02 when you become a very busy bee?
That's what these records show. I see I took steps, these records show I took steps between 8:05 and 8:09.
All right. So would you concede then that you're at the house around 8:09?
I would have thought so, yes.
Okay. And you said Paul was already back at that point?
No, I said just the opposite.
When did he get there?
All right. You talking about when I left the shop and went to the house when Maggie was there?
Yes, before you ate dinner.
No, as I said earlier, Paul and I were at the shop. Maggie got home. I left Paul at the shop and I went to the house. I think you were saying that I said I met Paul at the house, and that's incorrect.
Paul was still down at the shop when you were at the house, correct?
When I first went to the house, Paul was still at the shop, I believe.
All right. And was Maggie there when you arrived at the house?
Yes, I believe she was.
All right. And 8:09 is the last steps that you have on this phone before 9:02, correct?
That's what the data shows.
Looking now at page 15. I'm sorry, page 14. Your steps that you say when you got to the house is 8:09 and Paul was still down at the shop, but don't these records reflect that Paul is pinging with GPS data at the house at 8:08?
This record appears to show Paul at the house at 8:08.
All right. So those records don't fit with your new story that you testified yesterday and today. Is that correct?
No, I don't believe even right now, Mr. Waters, that that's right. I'm not saying, what you're doing is you're taking 8:09 and saying that I'm at the house. And, I mean, that may or may not be right, but what I'm saying is that when Maggie came through, I left, and I believe that Paul stayed at the shop. Now, did Paul come right behind me? I'm not sure, but when I left him, I believe that when I left to go to the house, I believe that Paul stayed at the shop for a minute.
When you got to the house, did you put your phone down?
I'm sure I did.
Did you put it in the car, in the Suburban?
Did I put it in the Suburban?
When you got back to the house, did you put it in the Suburban? Was the Suburban parked out front?
The Suburban would have been parked wherever I parked it.
Which is where?
I believe on the side.
Okay. And did you put your phone in the Suburban?
At that time? No, I did not.
Where'd you put it?
I'm not sure where I put it.
You're not sure about that either, huh?
No, I'm not sure. When I went in the house, I'm not sure where I put my phone. I would think that I put it down somewhere, probably by the couch.
Didn't you testify yesterday when you were being asked by your lawyer about that pause at Alameda when you were leaving, and you had a very specific recollection of your phone had fallen down in the crevice and you had to pick it up and get it out? You remember testifying to that?
I do.
But you don't remember what you did with your phone when you got back at this point, huh?
I mean, Mr. Ward, those are two distinct, different things. I'm coming in the house and I put my phone down. I don't have a routine spot that I put it in right on this corner or right there. You know,
Yeah.
I would assume that when I went in the house, I put it somewhere either on the table. You go by, go into the couch. I may have taken it to the bathroom. When I took a shower, it may have taken me a few minutes to go to the shower. So I can't tell you exactly where I put it.
That console story is an awful specific recollection when you need it to try to make the new story that this jury's hearing and everyone's hearing yesterday and today with the data, correct? But you're awful fuzzy on far more important things, aren't you, Mr. Murdaugh?
Which question? Here, I'll answer the first one first. No,
Answer the first one first and second second.
I don't believe that's convenient, and I disagree with your categorization of the description.
All right, but you remember the console story, but you don't remember where you put your phone, whether or not you took it down to the kennels, whether it was in the, you put it in the Suburban, don't remember any of that, but dadgummit, you remember that console story, correct?
Well, I don't remember the console story, but, you know, in that Suburban, and it's not the first time that it happened, but when that phone got down there, you had to go to great efforts to get it out, and you couldn't just reach over there and get it out.
All right, you say when you got to the house that Maggie was already there?
Yes.
Okay. And we saw your last steps were at 8:09?
Well, that's what you saw when this data recorded my last steps, but as you heard this testimony too, Mr. Waters, you know, that's not a precise, that's not a precise, you heard the testimony, you know what it is.
Well, how did you get back to the house? Remind us.
From the shop?
Yeah.
I went in a white pickup truck.
Went in the white pickup truck? Okay. And when you got into the house, where did you go?
We've already discussed this. I took a shower. Whether I did things for a moment before I went to the shower, I'm sure I talked to Maggie because she'd been gone. And if she came through the kennel, which I believe she did, we only talked briefly, so I would have talked to her, but I would have quickly gone to take a shower.
Okay. Going over to page 16, you would agree with me that the data reflects Maggie start logging steps and her phone disconnecting from the Mercedes around 8:17, correct?
I agree. At 8:17, her phone ends connection to her Mercedes.
And starts logging steps.
I don't see that, but I don't dispute it.
I see it right there.
See the purple line talking about it disconnecting from the Mercedes?
I
and
do
then if you
see.
go
I
down
see.
to-
I see where you're talking about. So yeah, I
Yeah.
see it. 8:17, her phone starts logging steps. I agree with that.
Okay. So would you concede that that appears to be when she arrived?
No, I don't believe that's when she arrived. I believe that. I mean, it was very normal for Maggie when she's driving to jump out of the car, run inside, go to the bathroom, do things, and either send me or Paul or go back, or Buster, or go back to her car herself and unplug her phone. So, I mean, I agree that's when her phone's unplugged, but I believe that Maggie got to the house a little bit before that. That's the whole reason why Paul and I went to the house.
Okay. But you're saying Paul arrived after Maggie, is that what you're saying? At the house? at
I
this point
believe
in
so,
time?
yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what I recall. And Paul arrived at the house after I arrived at the house, I believe. And if Paul got to the house
Talking, baby.
around about that same time, he wasn't inside with Maggie and I when I went to
8:08?
get to the shower.
So you say if Paul got, he wasn't inside with Maggie and you? Is that what you said? Mr. Murdaugh, is that what you said?
Sir,
You said if Paul got the house prior to that, he wasn't inside with you and Maggie? Is that what you said?
I'm saying he was not inside when I went to get in the shower.
Okay. But again, looking back at this data point, 8:08, we see a little blue dot right there in the middle of the house, don't we?
Yeah, that's what these records show.
Okay.
And it also shows that circle that folks testified to, what the range of what it could
Yeah, absolutely.
be within. So I mean, it clearly could be.
Look at that circle. Look at what's right in the middle of that circle. Almost like somebody drew a circle around the house, don't you agree?
Yeah, I do, but also in that circle is where you would park a truck if you pulled up.
All right.
So, you know, and I'm not saying that he wasn't in the house at some point in time there, but when I went to get in the shower, he wasn't in the house. And he very easily could have been there and been parked in the yard.
All right. You agree at the bottom of page 16 that about 8:30 Maggie starts tracking steps again on her phone?
Yes, sir, that's what the data shows.
All right. Oops, hit the wrong button. And you would agree with me that about 8:38, Paul's phone shows him back up at the kennels.
Well, yes, sir, I agree that at 8:38, let me see which one. It's hard for me to figure out which one of these rings, but at 8:38, it shows Paul in whichever one of those rings is 56 meters wide. And I have no reason to believe he wasn't at the kennel.
And then 8:44:55, we've already gone through this, but that's the kennel video, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And you would agree with me that it lasts about 50 seconds, correct?
Yes, sir, I agree with that.
And you would agree with me, moving on to page 19, that both Maggie and Paul's phones locked for the final time around 8:49.
That's what the data shows.
After that, you agree that Maggie's phone around 8:53 shows some steps being taken?
That's what the data shows, yes, sir.
Data doesn't show who's carrying it, but that's what it shows. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you would agree with me that from 9:02 to 9:06, your phone finally comes to life and starts showing a lot of steps.
I do agree with that.
What were you doing?
I was getting ready to go to my mom's house.
Getting ready to go? I thought you took a shower already. You were just laying down on the couch. What all you need to do to get ready to go to your mom's house?
I mean, there wasn't anything to get ready in that aspect,
Wasn't
but
anything to get
I
ready,
was
was it?
getting ready to go. I was preparing to leave.
Doing what?
I don't know if I got up, went to the bathroom. I don't know. I can't tell you exactly what I was doing.
And that's far more steps in a shorter time period than any time prior, as you've seen from the testimony in this case. So what were you so busy doing?
That's
Going to the bathroom?
no, I don't think that I
Get on a treadmill?
went to the bathroom. No, I didn't get on a treadmill.
Jogging place?
Nope, I didn't jog in
Jumping
place.
jacks?
No, sir, I did not do jumping jacks.
What were you doing, Mr. Murdaugh, for those 4 minutes?
Preparing to leave for my mom's house.
What? What does that mean? I mean, you're in the front room on that couch where you say you laid down. The Suburban's just right outside. What all are you doing?
I don't know if I got up and went to my room, went to the gun room, went back in the.
Doing what? You've been so clear in your new story about everything. What were you doing during these 4 minutes?
I disagree with your assertion about every detail. I don't recall. I know that I was getting up and I was leaving. I was going to check on my mom. But specifically what I was doing, I don't know.
Okay.
I know what I wasn't doing, Mr. Waters, and what I wasn't doing is doing anything, as I believe you've implied, that I was cleaning off or washing off guns or putting guns in a raincoat, and I can promise you that I wasn't doing any of that.
Okay. Also, during this 4 minutes where you've got 283 steps, not only are you moving around a lot, but you're making a ton of phone calls. Because that in that same time period, you see this red line right here, where over that 4-minute period, all those steps were taken. That's also when you're calling, making all these phone calls, isn't it, Mr. Murdaugh?
Well, I made the
So were
phone
you running
calls.
this place and making phone calls? Is that what you're doing?
Be allowed to answer before Mr. Waters steps on him again with another question. Please.
Oh.
Thank you.
All right.
You were making all these phone calls while you were taking all these steps. Would you concede that? Where you don't remember what you were doing?
Well, I was making phone calls, and that shown here. At 9:05, I called my dad. You know, I don't know that I was taking steps like you're saying I'm taking steps. I heard the same testimony you heard, Mr. Waters, and, you know, steps can be recorded any number of ways. I don't have a specific recollection of walking around. I don't know if I was hitting my phone like the guy showed or doing whatever that makes steps, but, you know.
So you were hitting your phone like that while you were making all these phone calls?
No, what I'm saying, Mr. Waters, I don't know that. I'm just giving you an example. You're saying that I'm running around taking these steps, and while I'm doing that, I'm making telephone calls. What I will agree with is that this data shows that there was 283 steps recorded on my phone. And sometime during that period, I made certain phone calls.
Okay. All right, so not only for whatever it is recording steps, but you're also making a ton of phone calls, including missed calls to Maggie, who is 1,100 feet away, supposedly.
You're using the term a ton of phone calls.
Yeah.
What I agree is that I made the phone calls that are listed on these call data records, which, you know, are very normal phone calls for me.
Do you know why so many phone calls were missing from the log around this relevant time period when law enforcement downloaded your phone on June 10th?
From my phone?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Did you delete them, Mr. Murdaugh?
Not intentionally.
Just around the time of June 7th, all these calls were missing, but you had nothing to do with that between June 7th and June 10th.
No, sir, I did not. And I did not delete phone calls from my phone. Mr. Waters, one of the most important things in this whole thing for me has been getting this data that I believe would exist. Phone calls and phone records would be part of that. I've been in enough civil cases and used phone records enough times to know that you delete a phone call from your phone, it doesn't disappear. So I can tell you, this jury, and everybody who's listening that I did not intentionally delete phone calls from my phone.
Yeah, because you started talking about you're a former prosecutor, correct? And former lawyer doing civil cases. We went through that yesterday. And boy, you're busy bee on that phone and right out of the gate at 9:02, right?
Objection's overruled.
Am I a busy bee?
Yeah.
I am using my telephone at, I think I call at 9:05, I start and call my dad, and I agree that I made other phone calls.
And one of the first things you start talking about with law enforcement is these calls that you made to Maggie, correct? You recall that from your first statement to law enforcement?
One of the first things that I said to law enforcement?
Yeah, that's one of the things you talk about. I'm talking about with your interview with Special Agent Dave Owen.
I don't remember that being the first thing we talked about, but
First things.
if Mr. Owens asked me about it, then
No, you brought
Sure.
it up, didn't you?
I did.
You don't recall?
No, I don't recall.
Would you dispute me if I said you brought it up?
That I brought up, what, brought up what?
Phone, Mr. Murdaugh, your phone.
Phone calls to Maggie?
I think it's playing dumb,
That
bro.
I
don't
brought
know.
up phone calls to Maggie to David Owens.
I'm asking you, is that one of the things that you talked about in your first interview with Dave Owen? That you pulled out your phone and started looking at it, that you brought that up? Do you recall that?
Well, but that's not what you asked, Mr. Owens. You asked me, was that the first thing that I talked to him about? And that was the discrepancy. I certainly don't dispute that Mr. Owens and I talked about phone calls.
Yeah.
But that's not what you said, so just to be clear.
Well, the real reason, Mr. Murdaugh, is that you as a lawyer and prosecutor are up at 9:02, finally having your phone in your hand, moving around and making all these phone calls to manufacture an alibi. Is that not true?
That's absolutely incorrect.
So that's just another circumstance and coincidence in this particular case. Right around the time that you lied to law enforcement about maybe one of the most important facts in the case.
Comment before the question.
It is an absolute fact that I am not manufacturing an alibi, as you say.
How do you remember so much detail about everything else, but you don't remember what you were specifically doing to generate 283 steps while you're making all these phone calls in the same 4-minute period?
I remember unequivocally, without any doubt, with as clear a mind as I could have at any time, that I never manufactured any alibi in any way, shape, or form, because I did not and would not hurt my wife and my child.
So why
So
can't
I
you
know
remember
for a
what you
fact
were doing?
that I never, ever, ever created an alibi.
Why don't you remember what you were doing when you were so busy for this 4-minute critical period?
I do
Other
remember
than
what I was doing.
Other than I was getting ready to go.
Well, that's because that's what I was doing.
Huh. I don't know. I don't know, bro.
Okay. Well, let's keep going. You made those calls to Maggie in that 4-minute period. You had just seen them a few minutes ago when you say you went down there and came right back. Why didn't you just take that quick little left 1,100 yards away and stop by? See why they didn't answer the call. You're obviously wanting to get in touch with them. Why didn't you go down to the kennels that were so close by?
There was no reason to. I mean,
Making multiple missed calls to Maggie, and she's so close. And there's a driveway right there. Why do you not just go down there and say, hey guys, I'm heading over there?
it wasn't important to do that. Me making those phone calls is simply me letting, I believe I called Maggie and I believe I called Paul, but that's simply me just letting them know that I'm leaving for a minute, I'll be back. The fact that they don't answer is not unusual at all. Now, it is odd, it is unusual that they never call me back. But at that moment, the fact that there's a missed call, when I know they're on the property, I mean, that doesn't even register at all. That's perfectly normal to try to call somebody who's on the property and not be able to get them. And as far as not going down there, there was no sense of urgency. Maggie was with Paul. You know, she should be as safe as she could be.
Yeah, she should. Did you talk with Maggie about going to Alameda when you were at the kennels?
No, I don't believe I did.
Did you talk with Maggie about going to Alameda during supper?
I know that we had talked about it. I had talked, I don't believe we talked about it at supper, but we may have. I know that I had talked about that I was going to go over there. And then I decided that I wasn't going to go over there.
So what was your conversation at supper? Tell me specifically, if you could, please.
I
About
can't,
going to Alameda.
I can't tell you that we specifically talked about it. The only thing that I can tell you we specifically talked about at supper was Paw Paw.
All right. And what was the conversation?
Maggie was just concerned. Paul had been having, for a young person, Paul had been having high blood pressure. And he's very resistant to go to the doctor. And this has been going on for a little while, but lately Paul's feet had swollen. And for a 22-year-old to start having swollen feet concerned both of us, and it particularly concerned Maggie. And we talked about that.
Okay. Did y'all talk about Mr. Randolph at all?
I'm sure we did.
Do you remember that group text coming in about whether or not anybody was going to go see Mr. Randolph at the hospital the next day?
Do I remember it coming in?
Yeah.
I don't remember it coming in,
Because
but
you didn't read it till the next day. But
I've seen the data.
why didn't you? Did you ever text the group and say you were going to Alameda at all?
No.
Did you and Maggie ever specifically discuss her going along with you to Alameda?
I don't believe that we did. I know that there was a point in time where I said Maggie might go, but it's highly unusual for Maggie to go and visit just my mom. That whole situation, it just made Maggie sad, and she didn't like to go. So
You
I don't believe that we did, but I do acknowledge that at some point I said she might go for some reason.
You told law enforcement on multiple occasions that, first of all, Maggie was planning to stay at Edisto the night of June 7th, correct?
I did say that.
All right. And you also said that you came to find out that she came home of her own accord, correct? You told that to law enforcement. Is that true?
She did come home of her own accord.
That she decided on her own to come home because she was worried about you. Isn't that what you said?
I did say that, and I believe that to be the case.
All right. But since despite what you told law enforcement, we've since seen the text that you actually called her and asked her to come home on the night of June 7th.
No, sir, that's not correct.
That's not correct?
No, sir, that's absolutely not correct.
All right. So you heard your sister-in-law Marion testify to just that fact of a conversation she had with Maggie, but you're saying that's not true?
I don't believe that's what Marion said.
All right. And your defense put in this exhibit, Exhibit 107, where Maggie texted Blanca and said, Alec wants me to come home.
I've seen that. I agree with that.
Is that it up on the screen? Oh, I've got the wrong input here. I'll just hold it up. You've seen this text?
I have seen that. Mr. Waters, the only dispute I have with what you're saying is you're saying that I called Maggie and wanted her to come home. I always wanted Maggie to come home, and I would have talked to Maggie about coming home before she ever left to go to Charleston and to Edisto. And I can tell you this, and I didn't realize this at the time, but I realize it now, that Maggie was already undecided about, now I didn't know this, but Maggie was already undecided about staying at Edisto. I can promise you that, because Bubba and Grady were in their kennels, as y'all well know, that night. That day, if Maggie was certain that she was spending the night at Edisto, at a minimum, Bubba would have been with her, and probably both dogs would have been with her. It was very unusual for her to spend the night anywhere without one of us or those dogs. So
you're
that tells me that when she left that morning, she was already seriously thinking about coming back.
So you're saying that you never called her and had a conversation that day asking her to come home specifically on the night of June 7th, 2021?
Maggie and I had a couple of phone conversations that day. What I'm telling you is that before she left, no, I don't believe we had a phone call about that. We may have discussed it during the phone call, but I didn't make a phone call to her to ask her to come home. I had already told her I wanted her to come home. I always wanted her to come home. You heard Marion say that too, that I always wanted Maggie with me.
Maggie thought enough of it to talk about it with Marion, didn't she?
The fact that I wanted her to come home?
Correct.
Well, sure. I mean, that's what Marion said.
So you're denying that you called Maggie and specifically asked her to come home that night?
I didn't make a phone call to Maggie to ask her to come home that night. I asked Maggie to come home long before she ever left. And I probably asked her again each time I talked to her, but I didn't make the phone call specifically for that, as you're saying. And to be clear, I'm certain that if Maggie was certain that she was spending the night, Bubba would have been with her, and probably Grady.
All right. Why did you tell law enforcement, though, that you found out after the fact that Maggie wanted to come home because she was concerned about you? Why did you phrase it that way if what you're saying to the jury now was accurate? Why would you phrase it that way?
Because I believe that to be the case.
That you found out afterwards, but now you're saying you knew.
No, I'm saying I found out afterwards why she came home, Mr. Waters.
Okay.
And she came home because she was worried about me.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to be clear about that. I did not learn that until, I think, the day after she got killed.
But you're saying that you found out that after the fact, but you're telling this jury that you knew the things that you just said about her wanting to come home. And you were unaware of what Marion would say at that point either.
No, I'm saying at that time, I had not thought about Bubba and Grady. Since that time, I've thought about that. I'm certain of that. At the time, I thought Maggie was staying at Edisto. All right? She was going to Edisto to meet the people, to do the work. Maggie loved to stay at Edisto. There's no doubt about that. It would not be unusual at all for her to stay at Edisto. But just like every other time, I had already asked her, please come back, come back. Always wanted her to stay with me. Always. But I did not learn about, and Maggie even texted me, I'll see you in a few hours. But I did not know why she decided to come back until later, is what I'm saying. And I learned it from Blanca. Blanca actually showed me the text that she sent her talking about being worried about me.
You would agree with me that you sent a text to Maggie at 9:08:58 while in motion in the Suburban, as reflected by the data?
I do. Which was because I couldn't reach them by the telephone, and I wanted them to know where I was.
Okay.
Which is what we do.
And you got to Alameda around 9:22?
I believe that's correct.
I can go down to it.
No, I don't have any reason to dispute that.
Made some more phone calls along the way?
I did make more phone calls along the way while I was riding.
Called Chris Wilson?
I did call Chris Wilson.
Oh, there's the guy from Fitz News right there.
Had a short conversation with him? Is that right?
I did have a conversation for however long the records show.
About 131 seconds, that sound about right?
if that's what the records show, 2 minutes.
Called your brother, John Marvin, for about 106 seconds, including connection time. Does that sound about right?
That does sound about right.
Arrived at 9:22. Does that sound about right?
It does.
And then at 9:24, you call, that's the landline at Alameda, is that correct?
That is correct.
And then you went inside, is that right?
Yeah, that's
Talked to
right.
Miss Shelley.
That's right. I called the house phone to get Shelley to let me in.
And when you were asked by law enforcement how long you were at your mother's house, you said 45 minutes to an hour. Isn't that correct?
I think I said a couple of different things, but I think at one time I did say that. But, you know, routinely through these things, I kept saying, you know, when you get this data, you'll see exactly. When you look at my phone, you'll see exactly. When you do, you know, so, you know, me giving the times was always given with the thought that, okay, that there's OnStar out there, there's whatever.
But when you had a conversation with Miss Shelley after the fact, you actually asked her to say that you were there longer than 20 minutes.
You know, I heard Shelley's testimony.
Oh,
I believe Shelley to be a good person. I wasn't trying to influence Shelley on any particular length of time because at the beginning of this, I believed that data would show what data would show. And for me to tell her to say something when my OnStar is going to show something different just doesn't make any sense. So, you know, I can't answer that. What my recollection is that I told Shelley that law enforcement would be talking to her. We may have discussed how long I was there. At that point in time, if I thought I was there 45 minutes, I may have said I was here 45 minutes, but, you know, I can't tell you.
All right. And that's the same thing that Blanca testified to, that you talked to her about the clothes that you were wearing. It made her uncomfortable, correct?
Ask that question again.
It's similar to your conversation with Blanca that she testified about when you talked to her about the clothes that you were supposedly wearing. And it made her feel uncomfortable. Do you remember that testimony, sir?
What's similar to that?
Well, that you're talking to both of these individuals about their testimony in a manner that's inconsistent with what they know.
No, I don't think your assertion is accurate. You have to understand this. On August the 11th, when I went to meet with David Owens, and in that, David Owens asked me about, he showed me that Snapchat and asked me about clothes that I had on. And shortly after that, the next time I was with Blanca, I asked Blanca about those clothes because David Owens had asked me about them and was made an issue about it. And so I checked with Blanca to see what I specifically asked Blanca, and it was an issue to me. So I got Blanca and I said, I need you to sit down and talk with me about this. This is important. Do you remember my clothes when you came to Moselle that day? And she remembered exactly what she testified to. She remembered that my pants were there. She wasn't sure if the shirt was there. At that time, I think she actually thought the shirt was there, but she was clear that she wasn't sure about that. No, she wasn't unsure, but she didn't remember, but assumed that it was. So that was the conversation and why I was asking Blanca.
Well, again, you're very specific about your memories of that conversation. Is that correct, Mr. Murdaugh?
You dang right I'm consistent about that, because a very short time before that, David Owens is asking me questions and telling me I'm a suspect in the murder of my wife and my child and asking me about my clothes, you're dang right it was important.
It was important, right?
And you're dang right I remember why I went to her and for what reason.
Because the only thing you're concerned about is yourself. You're not concerned about giving accurate information to law enforcement, correct? What's the reason for that, Mr. Murdaugh? Why don't you want to give accurate information to law enforcement? Why do you want to talk to these women who both are employed by you or your family and try to influence what they are going to say?
I did want to give law enforcement accurate information. I told a lie about being down there, and I got myself wed to that. But I wanted to give them as much. I knew that I hadn't done this, and I wanted to give them as much accurate information as I could. But the reason I went to Blanca is specifically because David Owens talking to me on August the 11th.
Okay. You can see that you're underway about 9:42, heading back.
I do.
9:42 to 9:43.
I do.
Turned on Moselle about 10:01.
Turned into Moselle at 10:01.
Yeah, sorry.
It looks to me like I turned into Moselle at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock on the dot, sorry.
Yes, sir.
At the house at 10:05.
Yes, sir.
And then that's when you went back to the kennels after you came back from Alameda, correct?
I went to the kennels after I went to the house. I went from Alameda to the house to the kennels.
And we got to the scene. You got out of the car, according to what you told law enforcement repeatedly, and went and checked the bodies, correct? Before you called 911, is that correct?
No, sir, that's not correct.
You're saying you didn't say that to law enforcement?
I don't know what I said to law enforcement, Mr. Waters, but I can tell you this. When I pulled up and I saw Mags and Paw Paw, I jumped out of that car. I know that I went back to my car and I called 911 as quickly as I could. That point in time, when I got on the phone, then is when I went to them and did the things that I did. So,
But you were
what
very-
you're saying is not accurate.
You're saying that you didn't say very specifically to law enforcement that you went to them prior to calling 911.
When?
After you got out of the car, you told law enforcement repeatedly that you went over and checked the bodies before you called 911.
No, I don't. If I did say that, I don't believe that's accurate. Did I check Maggie and Paul before I called 911?
Correct.
No, sir. That's not accurate. At least that's not what I remember.
That's not what you remember saying, or that's not what you say now happened?
No, that's not what I believe happened.
Okay, but you don't deny that's what you said.
Did I said Did I check Maggie and Paul before I called 911?
Correct.
I don't believe that's what I said. Now, I know I checked them, but I don't believe I checked them before I called 911. Because I can pretty well remember vividly when I checked Paw, I was already on the phone with 911.
Looking at this data, to show the vehicle parking at 10:05 and 55 seconds.
Yes, sir.
And 10:05:57, the Suburban arrives at the kennels. You agree with that?
I'm sorry, say that again, Mr. Waters.
At 10:05:57, it shows the Suburban arriving at the kennels.
Okay. Okay.
The 911 call was at 10:06:14,
Okay.
just about 20 seconds later. You agree with that?
I think that sounds right. Yes, sir. I mean, that makes sense. But that goes back to what I'm saying is I pulled up I saw them, and I know I jumped out of my car. But I believe that before I checked them, in fact, I'm almost certain that then I went back and I got that's when I went and got my phone and I called 911.
Okay.
And then, after I called 911, there was a little while where there wasn't, I don't think there was anything going on. And I believe that is the time period that I went and checked on them.
I don't want to belabor this point, but what you're saying here today, now that we have this data, that's not exactly how you expressed it to law enforcement in your prior statements. Is that correct?
No, sir, I disagree with that.
Okay.
I totally disagree with that, Mr. Waters. Will you point to what you're talking about?
Sure.
How y'all think today is going for Alec? Alec! Thank you guys for stopping by, man. We recovered. During the lunch break, when we get to lunch, I'm going to start a new stream because part of this stream got cut off the beginning part. So I'll have to end this stream at lunchtime and start a new stream so that it can process in the beginning portion of this live ads on. We'll talk about that during lunch. And a couple things we can do during lunch. We can talk, we can listen to some Nancy, we can take some calls, we can do whatever.
Where's the first?
Just riding out, man. Alec! Where are my Dayquil shit? Dayquil meds. I tried taking the saline thing because a friend of mine told me, oh, get the saline stuff and put it up your nose. And it'll clear your nose out, but I don't know. Maybe I have to try it again. I think it helped a little bit. But... oh, so he pulled it up. Oh, no, say they so skeezer. Oh, no, skeezing.
sir. I left the house without watching.
12:57.
Wrong stadium?
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, state your full name for me, please.
Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
And spell your last name so we get it correct.
Murdaugh.
All right. And you go by Alec?
Yes, sir.
And date of birth, Mr. Murdaugh?
May 27th, 1968,
And a good phone number for you.
803-942-1227.
All right. And sir, what was your name?
Yeah, Danny Henderson.
Okay. All right. As I stated, I'm David Owen in Lower Rutland with Colleton County. I'm with SLED. I hate to have to do this.
I
but-
understand.
yeah,
I totally
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
So you don't have any problem
Yeah.
with it.
So, just start at the top, take your time.
Like when I came back here,
Mhm.
I mean, I pulled up and I could see him, and I knew something was bad. I ran out. I knew it was really bad. And my boy over there, I could see it was. And I could see his brain on. And I ran over to Maggie, and actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first. I tried to turn him over, and I don't know, I figured it out. His cell phone popped out of his pocket. I started to try to do something with it, thinking maybe, but then I put it back down really quickly. Then I went to my wife, and I could see.
Did you touch Maggie at all?
I did. I touched them both.
Okay.
I tried to do it as limited as possible, but I tried to take their pulse on both of them. And, I called 911 pretty much right away, and she was very good. I talked to her. I told her I was going to get off the phone to call some family members. I did that.
What family members did you call?
I called my brother Randy, and I called my brother John. And I tried to call a little boy, a real good friend that's right around the corner from here, but I didn't get him.
That person you didn't name, that was Rogan, the little boy right around the corner. Is that who you're talking about?
That's correct. But going back to your question, that's the way I remember it, what I said right there. And your question about did I do these things before I called 911, that's not what I said then, and that's not what I remember now.
Okay. So you're saying now that you're out, you checked, you came back, got your phone, and that's when you called 911?
I'm not saying that now, Mr. Woods. I am saying that now, but to me, that's what I said then. I mean, I told her, I called 911 right away. There was no time to do the things that I'm talking about doing in the time between getting there and calling 911.
When you talked about calling Rogan, and you said that he lived right around the corner, correct?
That's correct.
But Rogan wasn't staying there at the time. That's the whole reason that Cash was at your kennel, right? You knew that.
Well, Rogan was staying in Beaufort a lot, but he was home a lot too. I didn't know where Rogan was on a daily basis.
About keeping his dog Cash at the kennels when he was staying with his girlfriend and working down in Beaufort?
Yes, he had asked me that. But I mean, that had been some time before. I didn't know. You're making a big deal about this, Mr. Waters, but that particular night, I didn't have a clue where Rogan was staying or not staying. I was trying to find somebody to come out there with me. I'd called Randy, I'd called John, and Rogan was the next best alternative.
Okay.
And Rogan is so close. I mean, Rogan, of all these kids that you've heard, Rogan, Gibson, Roro is like a Rogan. You prefer when I call him Rogan, is truly like a son to Maggie and I. And he was such a good friend to Buster, and he was such a good friend to Paul. And you've been through everything I have. You'll see that 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to this, I ran out of gas when Bus and Paw weren't home. And Rogan's the person that I called to bring me gas.
Okay. Nobody's disputing any that Rogan would have helped you. Let me keep playing this.
Was around Paul when you walked up?
Blood.
Anything else?
I mean, there was some body things, yes, sir.
I mean, like any other evidence? I know you said the phone fell out of the pocket, but did you see anything else that didn't belong or shouldn't belong or that wasn't part of Paul?
No, sir, not no, sir.
How about Maggie?
No, sir.
You didn't see anything around them? What made you come out here tonight?
I went to, my mom's a late stage Alzheimer's patient. My dad's in the hospital. My mom gets anxious when she does. I went to check on them and Maggie. Maggie's a dog lover. Okay. She fools with the dogs. And I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house.
You just testified that in the wake of this, you didn't know what you said to law enforcement. That was what you just said?
No, I mean, I know a lot of what I said to law enforcement, but there's a lot of things in looking back at this video for one, the 911 call for one. I mean, there's a lot of things that I didn't remember.
Okay. But right then and there, just not long into this interview, you made a conscious decision to lie right there.
Play that again?
You said, I was at the house.
And I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house. I left the house.
Played.
You want me to back it up some more?
Well.
Yeah, we can keep listening to it.
Anything around now? What made you come out here tonight?
I went to, my mom's a late stage Alzheimer's patient. My dad's in the hospital. My mom gets anxious when she does. I went to check on them and Maggie. Maggie's a dog lover. Okay. She fools with the dogs. And I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house.
You want to hear it again?
No, sir, but I don't
So you
think,
made a conscious decision to lie right there, this early into an interview, sitting in the front seat, correct?
I don't believe so.
You didn't make a conscious decision to lie?
I don't believe that was lying at that point.
Okay, tell me why not.
Because Maggie had gone to the kennels and I was at the house.
Okay. So you think you were that was not a lie at that point?
I don't believe so at that point.
At what point did you decide to lie?
I'm not sure, but it was in that.
It was in this interview?
I believe that it was.
Okay, was this interview where you're sitting in the front seat, correct?
It is.
You're not in custody, correct?
I'm not in custody.
They're giving you water, letting you chew tobacco, treating you politely, correct?
They were treating me very politely.
So what was it that clicked? So you said it's in this interview that it clicked that I'm gonna lie about the most important fact that I know?
I'm not sure exactly when in it that I decided to lie, but I believe it was during this interview. I believe all those things that I talked about, you know, those things that had gone on, the things that people had said to me about don't talk to anybody without a lawyer. Partners all told me that, or a lot of my partners told me that. My dear friend, Chief Alexander, was one that said that. I overheard, I believe it was Sheriff Hill, I'm not positive, I overheard him tell, I believe Mark Ball or Gray Holmes, don't let him talk to anybody without a lawyer. And what I believe is that based on my distrust of SLED and getting in that interview, and I'm not positive about this, but I believe when he asked me, you know, about my relationship with my wife and my son, I believe that's when I decided to lie.
You
But
also
I'm not
left
positive.
out when you had the GSR too, because that's what you testified to yesterday.
That certainly contributed.
And your dope paranoia too, you said that as well, correct?
Well, those things are what triggered the paranoia that started as my addiction evolved.
Right. And so you're an experienced lawyer and you've been a prosecutor, and you took the advice of your law partners that you should have a lawyer there, as you read that as, oh, I should lie.
No, that's not an accurate.
Because that's not what that
statement.
means, is it, Mr. Murdaugh?
Well, that's not an accurate statement, what you just said, Mr. Waters.
I just repeated what you just said. You said was one of the factors was your law partners, and now you're blaming Sheriff Hill and Greg Alexander told you that you needed a lawyer before you talked to police, and you took that somehow as meaning I need to lie?
No.
As a lawyer and a prosecutor?
No, that's what you said, Mr. Waters, but
How am I mischaracterizing it from your perspective, Mr. Murdaugh?
Because-
I think isn't that what you heard? Isn't that what you just said? Excuse me.
no, sir, that's not what I said.
All right,
So-
well, say it again.
I believe those guys were trying to help me. I believe they cared about me. I believe they thought that I was in a condition such that I shouldn't talk to anybody. I mean, those guys had to prop me up, help me get myself together just to be able to go talk to David Owens. I mean, they were trying to help me. But before that, that was just one of the many things that I believe led to that situation sitting in there where those paranoid thoughts came to me. Them talking about not talking to anybody without a lawyer, Brian Murdaugh, checking my hands, the fact that I got a pocket full of pills in my pocket. I was the person who found Maggie and Paul. My distrust for SLED. All of those factors combined and made me decide to lie. I also know him asking me about Maggie and Paw contributed to that paranoia. All I'm saying is, I'm not disputing that I lied. I'm just saying at this point, you're saying I made a conscious decision to lie here, and I'm saying I don't think I made a conscious decision right there.
Okay, so it's later.
I believe so.
Had you already had your GSR done at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I had.
And you already talked to your law partners and heard Sheriff Hill. Now you're blaming him and
I'm not-
blaming
no.
Chief Alexander now as well for your lies.
No, sir, Mr. Waters.
You just added that one. You didn't say that yesterday. You just added that one.
Please be given an opportunity to answer the question.
Today on the fly?
Objection.
You can finish your last answer.
Mr. Waters, I'm not blaming anybody. I accept full responsibility for what I did. What I'm saying is what I believe contributed to me doing that and the reason why I did that. I think those folks were trying to help me, so I don't blame them. I think they were worried about me.
Okay. I don't dispute that, but you're saying you took that advice as I need to lie.
Nah, what you're doing is you're isolating one single
I'm not
thing.
isolating anything. I've mentioned all the factors. You've added some new ones, but I mentioned all the factors that you're blaming for
No,
your
sir.
decision to lie.
That's not what you did. What you asked me is you said, I took my partners telling me not to talk to somebody without a lawyer as a reason to lie. And that's an inaccurate statement. That was one of the factors that went into a series,
decision to lie.
hang on, Mr. Waters, a series of events, all right, that caused me to have paranoid thinking, all right, and then I lied.
All right. But at some point it happened during this interview that you crossed over. You're saying that you came into this interview intending to be fully disclosing to everything, and something happened in this interview that sent you over the edge, and you said, hey, let me lie about the last time I saw my wife and child alive, supposedly, according to me.
I certainly didn't go into that interview, I believe, intending to lie. Mr.
Okay.
Waters, I wasn't capable at that point in time of planning anything or thinking through anything.
So somehow during this interview, all of a sudden those senses came to you to plan and do that.
When I got to thinking in that paranoid way, that normally, as I said, I mean, I could take a deep breath and make it go away. I never had a situation where it lasted more than a matter of seconds. That night, after all those things had happened,
That's all it takes, a couple seconds.
it didn't go away in a matter of seconds. And I decided to lie.
Those are the clothes that you ultimately gave to Dave Owen, is that right?
Those are the clothes I gave to David Owens.
At what point did you be able to chuck the pills you say are in your pocket? When did you do that?
When I was in my bedroom.
When you're in the bedroom?
Yes, sir.
Where'd you put them?
I'm not sure where I put them, but ultimately they would have gone in my suitcase.
So that's when you did it? Do you have a specific recollection of that?
No, I don't. I just know that I took them out of my pocket.
If we watch this whole video, you think you could, if we watch the whole thing, you think you can say, okay, that's the moment where my senses came to me and I decided I was going to tell this major lie?
I don't know that it happened like that, but I mean, I may be able to tell you some things that contributed to it. We watched the whole thing.
Well, we've heard that.
Checking the clock. Look at the clock too.
I just want to be clear, though. At least on this one, at some point during this interview, when you were able to plan your lie about this event, and you made that decision.
Obviously,
But it wasn't what we just played. It wasn't yet. It was some point after that.
I don't think that's a lie right there. Is the reason why I don't think that it's occurred before this, because what I'm saying there, I believe to be truthful. And I know this. I know for a fact that when David Owens asked me about my relationship with my wife and my child, I know that that played a role in that. And I believe that and I may be wrong, but I believe that this was before that.
You ever heard the expression, not telling the whole truth is the same as telling the lie?
Sure I have.
Ooh. Ooh.
That's something you understood as a lawyer and a prosecutor?
Yes.
All right.
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, state your full name for me, please.
Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
And spell your last name so I get it correct.
Murdaugh.
All right. And you go by Alec?
Yes, sir.
And date of birth, Mr. Murdaugh?
May 27th, 1968,
And a good phone number for you.
803-942-1227.
All right. And sir, what was your name?
Yeah, Danny Henderson.
Okay. All right. As I stated, I'm David Owen in Lower Rutland with Colleton County. I'm with SLED. I hate to have to do this.
I
but-
understand.
yeah,
I totally
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
So you don't have any problem
Yeah.
with it.
So,
You hadn't decided to lie right there, correct?
I don't believe so.
It was way before that.
David Owen, that you understood that he had to ask questions and you did what you need to do, correct?
That is what I told him.
Oh, look at Dick.
Your Honor, this might be a good time for a break.
Clock. Ladies and gentlemen, addressing the jury. We'll break till 2:15. We'll go to the jury room. Please do not discuss the case.
I tell Dick's gonna come. He's gonna get up and say something now. They ain't gonna have time for that expert witness. I don't know what they're gonna do with the extra witnesses they got waiting.
Coming, I saw both lawyers looking at their watches. Just want to touch on really quick the two,
No, we
what
gotta
I
hear what they're
believe
gonna
are
say.
critical moments of this testimony today. Talking about the steps and Creighton Waters really pushing Alec to give him an answer because at 8:09 his last steps were taken, but then
Murdaugh,
jump
you may
forward
step down.
to
You're not allowed to
9:02. Suddenly he is recorded as taking 283
Mr. Griffin,
steps.
now we'll address-
Creighton Waters
on.
said, "What were you doing during that time?" He said, "Did you jump on a treadmill?
let me get
Were you
another one.
perhaps doing jumping jacks? What were you doing?"
Crazy, crazy, crazy. Not the time right now. Wait till after.
So I guess everyone can be seated.
The heck?
Yes, sir.
Now's not the time.
Sure.
So what are they gonna do? I'll let him go. I feel like Dick's gonna have some shit to say. Dick. Ooh, Shush Whisper says me and Alex have the same birthday. Oh Lord. Uh-oh, what's going on? Uh-oh. What's going on? Oh shit! I don't know what's going on here. Some skis and skeezer. Oh Lord, Lord, what's going on, man? Huh.
We'll be in recess to 1:15.
Come on. All right. Oh boy, did he just do a peace sign? Peace. All right. Look at something was happening. I don't know what was going on. Ski squad. What happened over there with the security guy or whatever?
Second before everybody moves. So I guess. Yes.
Oh, something happened. He said 1 second before anybody moves.
1 second before everybody moves. So I guess everyone can be seated.
Okay, maybe he just wanted to make sure they got out or something, the jury. Like he tampered with. Okay. Let me get the super chats. I think we should start a new stream because the other one got a little bit got cut off, the morning portion. So for the people that are re-watching, they got cut off. And so let me get the super chats. I'll launch another one for the lunch break. Schedule. Okay. We can listen to Nancy. I know she had some stuff yesterday. I wish they would bring that guy back. What's the guy? Ted Williams. Part 2. Kind of don't like splitting up the stream sometimes because I feel like we lose some people, but I would rather have the trial in its entirety because some people are watching it after, some people are watching it behind. And so let me just do this part 2. There, part 2. Okay. So let me give it 5 minutes before I start that one. We'll put it for 110. 110. A rip-it-ting ting and a rip-it-ting tongue. I don't have any notifications either, by the way, so I'm gonna rely on you guys to come over to the new stream. I am gonna transfer people, but I don't have any notifications, so if you don't get transferred, you're gonna have to come over. So a couple things. Let me just get some of these super chats. I got that. Kelly E, thank you so much for the 8-month membership. He doesn't have an ounce of humility. He can't even pretend he does. It's just not there. Thanks, Mel. This is always fun with you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Kate, thank you for coming a member. Rosie, thanks for the membership. Bay Life, he slipped and said Maggie asked him to leave, then quickly corrected and said she asked him to go to the kennels. I feel like with that stuff, you have to catch like every word, everything he's saying. Alex, thank you so much for the stars on Facebook. It says, go watch A Southern Scandal on Netflix. That's the new one, right? I want to watch that. I want to watch it. Even though I watched Low Country. Elizabeth Mayer, thank you for the 20. Appreciate the super chat. It says, thanks, Mel, for all your great coverage on Alex coverage and other coverages you do. And of course the high-speed chases. Yeah, the high-speed chases, they're not happening like they used to happen. Ashley, thank you so much for the membership. Simply Life Days, thanks iCkEdMeL for doing this. I'm really enjoying this. I feel like I got like this restless leg thing going on. I'm just fucking shifting all over. Thank you, Simple Life Days. Appreciate the super chat. Dr. Edward Moskowitz, Mel, 288 milligrams is the highest dose for hospice patients. Alec doesn't have cancer. If he took 1,000 milligrams, equals death. Since reputable Harvard Mayo Clinic study. Thank you. Charms. Today has been bad for AM. He keeps saying others are lying, but not him. I don't think today's been a good day for him either. I don't think. I think the defense gets to come back and like make whatever they, I don't know if they recross it's called or whatever. They get to come back. They're gonna have to help clean up a lot of shit, I think. Vicky K, thank you for the super chat. Nurse here who gives 150 milligrams Oxycontin 2 to 3 times daily with 80 milligram tabs in between for breakthrough. Okay, so let's see. Nurse here who regularly gives 150 milligrams Oxycontin 2 3 times a day daily with 80 milligram tablets in between for breakthrough cancer patients. So let's see. 150. 2 of them 3 times a day. So that's 900, up to 900 milligrams. That's what she's saying for breakthrough cancer patients in between time. Wait, with 80 milligrams. So I don't know. She said 150 Oxycontin. So 150. Two of them 3 times daily with 80 in between, with 80 milligram tablets in between. I don't know how often in between means. But that's at least up to 900. That's what a Vicky K says. Thank you, Vicky. That sounds like somebody that's like doing really, really bad if they're getting that much. But Alec here is saying up to 2,000 milligrams daily. Just on some regular shit. Just going to work, doing his regular daily shit, bruh. Kila Pink, thank you for the super chat. Says, Mel, you gave me your cold. Oh no. I guess we'll have to do the armpit swab. Enjoy your platform. Thank you, Kila. Armpit method. Dr. Edward Moskowitz, it's perplexing that family didn't carry Narcan. Yeah, true. SW4x4, Mel, you need to take the COVID test. No. Say it ain't so. Rose with Thorns, thank you for the super chat. All right, so I got the new stream set up, I think. I got it set up. I want to start a fresh new one so we can give this one time to process. Make sure you come over to the new one. Let me redirect. We're doing good today. I think we could listen to a little bit of Nancy. I want to recharge on some caffeine or something to kind of wake me up a little bit. Or I don't know. Trying to let this cold or whatever get a hold of me. Let me drop the link for the new stream in chat. So come over to the new one. Oops. Okay. What's the new one? Make sure you check. I'll talk about Swagit, the new one. Make sure. Well, let me just mention it now. Swagit. Make sure you download Swagit. Download the app. We're doing a giveaway on I think Sunday, May 5th. Not May 5th. Sorry, March 5th. March 5th. Doing a giveaway. I'm uploading videos there. If you support me, I'd appreciate if you click the link and download the app and just check out the videos when you can. Get swag bucks. You can convert that to gift cards. And so, yeah, let's go over